All right. What's up, everybody? How you doing out there? Welcome back to the show. This is last week's fight. My name is Thinker St. James, and tonight we are going to be going over each and every fight from UFC 313, Pereira versus Ankalaev, taking a look at next week, which is UFC Fight Night, Vettori versus Dolidze 2. To do all of that with me, as always, my co-host, the Ohio player, the one, the only, Chase Parton. How are you, sir?
I'm good today. These fights over the weekend, they were pretty good, and I've slept off, the events that we have to endure for the next couple months or whatever's going to happen. I think I've come to terms, and it is what it is. So Monday was good. I had a good one.
You're not happy with the upcoming events that we got?
Well, no, the title reign, I guess, is what I was putting
Oh,
it.
got you. Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's going to be the upcoming events, I guess. So, but we'll save that for later. But
It
I've
certainly
come to
is.
terms with it.
Sure, yeah. Well, it certainly is a brave new world that we have now entered, of course, and we're going to talk all about it here in just a bit. If you are new to the stream, we're going to be going over each and every fight from this card, UFC 313. If you have anything that you want to talk about that is not pertaining to the fight that we are talking about at the moment, you can throw it in the chat. We will come back to it at a later time. But to get into this thing, this is UFC 313 Pereira versus Ankalaev. This took place at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. Was supposed to be a 12-fight card, turned into a 10-fight card. Two fights canceled. Chris Gutierrez and John Castaneda, Curtis Blades and Rizvan Kuniev both canceled. Turned into a little bit of an odd timing situation. We talk about pacing of these cards occasionally. How did you feel about this card overall, all things considered?
I felt like it was the pacing, and the amount of cards, I don't think it felt like a glaring issue. I feel like they filled in the gaps pretty well. Like normally, I've told you about times where we've just watched promos and watch them at the desk for, 30 minutes or whatever. It started late. It took a while for it to start. I'll say that. But I think once it started to go, the beginning was a little rocky, but it picked up towards the middle. End was a little interesting, not the actual end, but the middle end kind of deal, and then the end, of course, was interesting. So we'll get
Sure.
into it.
Yeah, yeah. Overall, I was pretty happy with the quality of the fights themselves. The only thing that was a little strange about the start of the event was, as you kind of alluded to there, they pushed the start time back. So it was supposed to start at 6 o'clock or 6:30
Six
Eastern Standard.
thirty got pushed back to 7, but then
Seven
didn't
thirty. Yeah.
actually start until past 7:30. So
Right, exactly. So the start time was a little bit weird. It was kind of cool for myself and Vitz King on the watch along. We started at the time that we said we were going to start at 6:30, so we were able to kind of chat and hang out for a little while, which was sort of nice. But it was a little bit strange because they break it up by early prelims, and main card, and it turned into a single early prelim fight. Was the first fight of the night was the only early prelim. They shifted over to the regular prelims, and then it was a normal event after that. So just a little bit of weirdness, but overall, the quality of the fights I think were pretty good. And of course, we will get into them right now. So let's start off with this first fight. This is Jordan Santos versus Ozzy Diaz. Did DC say that Jordan Santos at one time lived in a dog kennel? Is that something that I heard?
what the fuck?
Did you not hear this? Yes.
I did not hear this. Oh
Okay.
my lord.
So yeah, well, look, Santos apparently had a very rough upbringing, something that we've heard, a lot in MMA, a lot of guys coming from really negative backgrounds and overcoming adversity and whatnot. I suppose that if I heard correctly, at least, Santos, his version of that story was that at one point he was actually living inside of a dog kennel. This is something that DC had said on the commentary. So if that's the truth, that is pretty goddamn wild, and I would suspect it to be so. Santos seems like a kind of rough and tumble sort of guy. What do you think about this fight?
Well, let me bring one piece of context to this first.
Sure.
So I know you know the meme of where DC always tries to wrestle the guys in the hallways kind of deal.
Yes.
And so there's a video of Alex, and he's walking by, I know it's gonna long story. And then DC's trying to wrestle with him, and then Jordan Santos comes out of nowhere, full fight gear, like on, like he was like just training, and he saw DC down the hall, and he's like, I gotta go get my moment or whatever. So he's like trying to do his moment. He's like, get off my boy, and like DC does not pay him any fucking mind. He did not care.
Wow.
It was pretty funny.
The disrespect.
So going into the fight,
Uh-huh.
originally I was thinking, okay, we're gonna go for the Santos money line, right? And then watching this fight, I had the opposing viewpoint from Elite. He was taking Ozzy Diaz, and I really thought like Jordan Santos won most of this fight, which is actually pretty interesting to watch because I should have known that the judging was going to get interesting, and maybe I knew deep down to put the plays in the God's hands because this right here, this was interesting. Every single round, Jordan Santos was walking him down. He was getting wild, but he was landing so many strikes that Ozzy Diaz was like reacting to. Like he was getting, dude, it was the striking numbers being that close are interesting because, in my opinion, Jordan Santos was just walking him down and beating this dude up. It looked really good for, again, debut kind of guy. I liked it.
Yeah, no, I was going to say the same thing, that the strikes landed as far as significant strikes go being so close is rather crazy to me based on exactly what you're talking about here. But I want to say this fight was a entertaining fight for sure. I mean, this was an interesting display to say the least, but I want to say that this was a deserved loss, and I'll tell you why. It's not that Santos didn't win this fight, because I do think that he deserved to win this fight. However, I say it's a deserved loss because Santos did not finish exchanges when he could have. Like he was in situations where he was actively having the advantage, and Diaz is a guy that we know is touchable and rockable. I mean, Zhang Minyang put him out. I'm not saying that Jordan Santos and Zhang Minyang are on the same level, but I'm saying that it's possible to have Diaz compromised, and I believe that Santos did have him compromised at a few times. What does Santos do in those times? He starts showboating like a fucking moron. And I'm sorry, if you are in a situation where it's getting close, and by the third round, it certainly was starting to get closer when Diaz started to really get himself back into it, because those first two rounds were pretty clearly Santos, I would say. I think Diaz had a little bit more success in the third round, good accuracy as well. But if you are in a position where you're ahead, you cannot start showboating like a moron and think that you've just rest on your laurels, essentially thinking that you've done enough to in the judge's eyes. Like, bro, go out there and finish this fight if you are in the driver's seat.
I agree that, okay, emoting 3 times in the first round is a little much, but
Wild.
You're making it seem like he was, pointing at him and like doing the Sugar Sean dribbles. He was hyping the crowd. It was the first round.
Well, when he had him hurt, that's the problem.
In my opinion, he hurt him the first time, and then it was like after the moment, at least in the moment, it's like the first one he didn't pounce. Okay, so it looks like he weathered himself on that first one. Okay, hype the crowd a little bit. Then they get into a flurry. Okay, he hypes it again or something, and then probably didn't finish it. Try. Okay, because he wanted to hype it a third time. Third time's the charm, dude. First round was good for him. Second round, I'm pretty sure he did some more stuff, but I don't believe any of it was like cockiness, showboating. I think it was like, I'm in the UFC now. Fuck it. Let's just fucking raise the roof, man. Like,
yeah, and like I'll grant you that that's probably what it was, but because this fight ended the way that it did, and it turned into a unanimous decision for Diaz, which is kind of wild. I thought that at the very least this was going to be split, but either way, I mean, like, you got to get your advantages where you have them, and you had them there. So I feel like he sold pretty hard on that aspect of it. Round two, showboating aside, whatever, round two was the most entertaining round to me because neither guy was blocking anything. These dudes were just out there straight. The way I described it was that they weren't fighting with each other, they were fighting at each other. You know what I mean? They were like really just in each other's face, just throwing at random, no mixing of the martial arts whatsoever, straight boxing. I did like that clubbing hammer fist that Santos was throwing occasionally. I thought that was a cool way to mix it up, but it's not really mixing it up if it's just a different style of hand strike. You know what I mean? Like, these two dudes were really out there rock'em sock'em roboting each other. And I enjoyed it. So for that aspect of it, showboating aside, I did like it. This fight was entertaining to start things off, and credit to Ozzy Diaz for upping the volume significantly in the third round and doing so with good accuracy after taking adversity in those first two. So I thought it was a pretty clear 2-1 for Santos, with that third round going to Diaz. Judges obviously saw it a different way, but I want to, I can't not stress that I feel like, had he not been feeling himself with the showboating or trying to hype the crowd up, or however you want to describe it, there could have been a different outcome here. It's just, I don't know. I think that might be the case.
All right, here's my idea, right?
Yes.
Jordan Santos, to a guy like me, stock raised, right? Won the fight, in our opinion.
Right.
Ozzy Diaz moved up a weight class after he already lost a couple times, but he's also a dude that'll go get knocked out. He can be a feeder, right? The UFC needs to give him a win, because the next guy that can knock him out, they'll put him up against, and then he's going out again, just like Zhang Min Yang. And I'm pretty sure there was somebody else too. But yeah, Ozzy Diaz is just a dude. He's just one of those dudes that go. Joe Pyfer. Yep, there you go. And he goes up against these dudes that are like hard hitting killers, and like Jordan Santos was supposed to be that guy, and maybe that's why they didn't give them the nod, because you didn't go finish the fight like people like Thinker thinks you should have. So I don't know. It was fun though. I give it to you. This was an interesting fight.
Yeah, absolutely, and a nice way to start this thing off after all what we were talking about with the fights dropping off and stuff. So, good starting salvo here. But yeah, really for Santos, I mean, I think that the only notes going forward are just to tighten it up a little bit. I mean, like, the striking, the volume is certainly there. I mean, that again, these numbers, I'm thinking about possibly doing an entire video just on how bullshit these numbers often feel. Like, I don't even care if they're actually like 100% accurate and they just feel off, because they feel so off that it's like it's deceptive is how I think, So it's like, this being as close as it was does not make any kind of sense. So but I say that to say that obviously the volume for Santos is there. Maybe try mixing in a little bit of different styles of attacks, because I think Joe Rogan was absolutely correct when he said that these guys were both fighting a little one-dimensionally. And for two guys who were going at it the same way and equally game to do so, it wasn't a big problem. But against other guys, it's going to be more of a problem. So switch it up a little bit. The same note kind of goes for Diaz as well. Really, I think on both sides, it's just become more well-rounded mixed martial artists, but still have that same grit, because both of them really did go out there and get after it, showboating aside.
Yeah, true. Like I said, this was a good one to start off with.
Absolutely. So we have one that we thought, maybe not the right decision, but I recall in the Discord a little bit of conversation about this next fight. This is Myron Santos versus Francis Fire Marshall, and hearing Chase say some stuff that did not add up to me. So why don't you start us off here, Chase? What do you think of this fight?
I mean, I thought this was a good fight. This was a good lesson for Myron Santos, because this was probably the first difficult matchup that he's really had. I haven't watched him fucking do all the stuff, but like in the UFC, of course, especially, this is his technically debut. This is the hardest matchup he's had to date, and I thought he weathered it perfectly. And people want to say that it was a robbery, and I can tell you why I don't believe so. The only thing that you can say that happened that was really a moment for Francis Marshall was the knockdown in round one, and they didn't even count it, which is honestly kind of crazy. But Myron Santos was able to recover, and he was able to end the round, and he was able to convincingly keep the fight close after that. In my opinion, he did great on the. He was able to not let Francis Marshall hurt him after he was getting the takedown. Like the takedowns that Francis had, and with the 2 minutes of there was just nothing that happened. No strikes that I recall being. I can't even tell you that there was any thrown. I'm not gonna lie. You might correct me on that one, but when it was on the ground, it wasn't much happening. And then we eventually got back to the feet. And bro, I don't know. I just think Myra got this one, and I'm pretty sure I knew the judges were gonna give it to him, because, like I said, when I'm going, I'm basing it off of what I believe the judges are going to give and off of what I know the scoring criteria to be, I don't know. I think Myron got it.
Well, I cannot let this stand because I think that this was so. With that in mind, split decision win for Santos with a 30-27 for Marshall in there. Just keep that in the back pocket while I go through some of this. So, okay, let me break it down a little bit here. This was a slow first round and a close one, I would say. Marshall was landing with better power until the end of the round when he ended up dropping him. So, I mean, it was decent power up until then, and then the drop. The fact that they didn't count the knockdown is absolutely absurd to me. I do not understand that in the slightest.
He recovered. He's good. They
Oh
didn't count
yeah,
it.
yeah, sure. I'm telling you, the numbers do lie. But he definitely won that round regardless, right? Round two, to me, was also a clear round for Marshall. His striking was definitely there as well. And I thought his scramble work was nice when the takedown that he shot for did not land. It was kind of a not really a great entry into the takedown, but rolled through and ended up in a better position. I thought that he did pretty good. The one thing that was a note for Santos in that round was he did land that cool drop kick. I thought that was pretty dope. But aside from that, I thought that this was another good round for Marshall. I think I had in the notes that Marshall's right hand is really sharp. He's got some really nice straights and hooks from the right. So I mean, looking good through two. Round three to me was more of the same. Marshall with effective striking. Then the one time that Santos has the possibility for an advantage when Marshall goes for a takedown, yet again, another takedown that was not effective for him, Francis was able to roll through and end up on top in that exchange as well. So through 3 rounds, I'm like, this seemed like a very, very clear 30-27 for Marshall. To me, this seemed like a legitimate robbery because honestly, I mean, and this is coming from a dude who bet on Santos too. Just like Chase, we watched the entire Ultimate Fighter. I like him as a fighter in the fights before this one. I thought that he navigated those pretty effectively, seemed to have a good amount of confidence in those. In this fight, he did not do very much. He seemed very overly cautious. It could have been the bright lights. It could have been the power of Marshall. I don't know exactly what it was, but he didn't seem very eager to be the aggressor and lead the dance. So I think Marshall did that. And this outcome doesn't make any real sense to me. I mean, I have this down as number one bullshit over here. Crowd was booing like crazy. Got the classic, "Did you think you did enough?" from Joe Rogan in the interview. I mean,
Did you hear John Anik right after it?
what do you
He's like,
say?
well, that's a bullshit call, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah,
I mean, get the fuck out of here. Seems like an accurate assessment to me. So, I also understand the perspective of going from the judges, but even with thinking from the judges' point of view, I just did not see enough out of Santos in this fight. And again, the parlays were happy about it. I think that the one parlay that I did hit actually had Santos on it. So, I mean, money wise, I'm a happy guy. But as far as, legitimacy in the win, I mean, this one, I really can't give it to him. And I feel bad for Marshall with that because I really do think he was doing nice work in this fight.
Yeah, I agree. Excuse me. I don't think Marshall put on a bad performance, and I don't truly believe that he lost kind of deal. Asterisk 30-27 is pretty crazy. It makes me look really good because I am sitting in the chat and I'm trying to have a lot of confidence because I'm putting money down on Myron Santos. So I can't sit here and be like, yeah, my dude's gonna fucking lose. So I'm trying to have a little confidence. And then the fact that I'm right makes me look really, really good. I'm just saying, sometimes you just got to go with your boys. And Myron Santos, I don't believe that it was anything out of the ordinary for him to be fighting the way that he did. His confidence, I will agree, it did not look as high as it normally does. I don't know what that was about because even after round one, he looked like he was down on himself a lot. But his style on the feet, if you remember Elijah Smith from a few months ago, probably now, he's very counter heavy and he plays on the outside, but Myra Santos is very similar to that. I think he's just not as fast, not even in the slightest. Myra Santos probably has the power to be able to knock some of these guys, but I don't think like he did in this is a tough finale. But I just don't think the confidence was there for him to have that moment that he could do it.
Fair. I pride myself on my impartiality and fair assessments of these. So, money is always going to be put to the side as far as accuracy goes. And yeah, I'm sticking with my guns on this one. I think this was a pretty clear win for Marshall, but not mad at Santos getting a win. Like I said, I think he's a good fighter. It does give me a little bit of pause because coming into this fight, if you go back and watch the watch along, I was saying that I think that Santos has the potential to be like a real name in this sport. Somebody that has a skill set that seemed pretty well rounded coming into his time in the organization. And I'm going to need to see a lot more out of him in future fights. And also, I do want to at least make the slight note that he did not curry much favor for himself by saying, "Oh, yeah, you guys can boo, but I think I did enough," and blah blah blah, this and that. I mean, just I that's an optics thing as from fan perspective, as far as how the fans see you. And I think he might have a little bit of ground to make up in that regard as well. So, a win is a win is a win. It's going to go down in the books as a win. There's no overturning it or anything like that. So Santos gets that at least, but I do believe it's going to be a little bit of an uphill battle for him now, and he's going to have to look really sharp in his next fight.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's just because I think he won this fight in technicality doesn't mean I think he's going to win his next fight. I'll have to see the opponent, and I'll have to really believe that Myron's going to make some big leaps, because it looked like there was a lot of holes right there. But I think a lot of it, again, was the confidence, and hopefully he's just able to be the aggressor in the fight, because that was probably where he wasn't able to get in rhythm, is he wasn't able to lead the dance. Francis just didn't let him get into any type of groove, and smart on Francis. It was a good game plan. He won that in a lot of people's opinion. 30-27. Can you argue it? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. And on Marshall's side, I really think that he needs to just continue fighting exactly the same way. Like that's again why this is so unfortunate, when things like this happen, because I think that he really did pretty much almost everything right, aside from the takedown attempts, which were not exactly accurate enough to get the control. Work on that just a little bit, perhaps. But really, I think that overall the striking was certainly there. It seemed like he had really nice power in the hands. A couple of reactions from Santos, obviously the drop that was not fucking counted, but whatever, I digress. I think that Marshall did a lot of great things in this fight. And, decision aside, he's got better coming for him in the future. In fact, I think that this is the type of fight that maybe down the line they possibly could end up running back, depending on how their trajectories go.
Yeah, we'll see. I wouldn't mind that. I'd like to see it.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be farther down, of course,
Right,
but
right.
I mean, I wouldn't be mad at that. So, anyway, Myron Santos gets the win, like it or not. Moving on. All right, so this one was definitely an interesting fight compared to his last one. This is Alex Morono versus Carlos Leal. Leal with a conspicuously acne-free back. Had to mention that off the top. No, don't know if you noticed how very clear that skin on his back was this time around.
Neutrogena or something like that, man. It clears up. But yeah,
Yeah.
this one is actually really funny to me, because all week, right, everybody's like, bro, no way at minus 700, 800 would I ever bet on Carlos Leal, only by knockout. And even then, it's still not even worth it. And it's like, Alex Morono, though, he's kind of crafty. Maybe he can pull it off. But no, this was a well-deserved minus 850. He actually killed him in the first round. This is how most minus 850s should play out if you're going to have a ticket like that. Alex, he tried, but he just couldn't. Dude, it was actually pretty pitiful. Carlos Leal is actually really, really good. I mean, understandably, coming in on your loss on a debut, there's got to be some skepticism, even though you really kind of won that fight. But
Right.
this one is just like icing on the cake, really. He's just like, man, I'm here. Like, I'm gonna knock dudes out, and if it's not Reinette, it's gonna be somebody else's head on the canvas. So I like it.
Yeah, I want to give a little bit more credit to Morono than saying that it was pitiful, because there certainly we'll get to a couple fights coming up that there were certainly performances that I think were a little bit worse. But I think that really it's not that it was a terrible performance from him. I just think that Leal did the exact right thing when it comes to how you start a fight and how you carry yourself through early successes. Because really, Leal has some very nice Muay Thai acumen. Really nice work in the open range clinch. You know, he had the hands around the back of the neck and was working it like a Muay Thai fight, and it showed. I mean, the knees and the strikes to the body were really effective. The strikes to the body were really effective. I mean, like that's something that was adding up and paying dividends throughout the entirety of this short fight. But mixed up the shots really nicely, body shots all day, and just a good navigation when he was obviously starting to pull ahead. He took a shot or two to gauge Morono's power, you know, earlier on, which I thought was fine because, you know, Morono was probably like a little bit slower to get into it, not thinking that Leal was going to be the beast that he ended up being, but took those shots, felt comfortable with what he was getting back, and then upped the pressure thereafter. It was a really savvy navigation of you know, what he was encountering from his opponent. And then it was just a beautiful combo that sent Morono into a desperation level change. He goes to the ground, and what does Leal do? Walks away, turns back, and says, "Get the fuck up. Thank you, Carlos Leal." I don't know how many times on this show I have to say, if you have your guy as hurt as he did in this situation, why are you going to go to the ground? Turn around. You don't leave yourself open. Get yourself back in a safe distance, face your opponent, and say, "Get up." And that's exactly what he did, you know, essentially. And so, I mean, this was really it was a dominant performance. And as you said, Chase, exactly what you want to see out of such a heavy favorite.
Yeah, dude, this guy here, I mean, I wouldn't get into dark horse territory yet because again, it's his second UFC fight, but like this dude's pretty fun. It'll be interesting to see when more styles get matched up against him because you know Reinat is a dude who will slug with him, right? And then Alex Morono, you know, for the time being, it was gonna be hopefully in theory him peppering some shots and you know kind of skating by, and he was doing a little bit of it. It looked good at first. I was like, oh, there it goes. Yes, I was right. And then Carlos Leal just, you know, cracked the code early and just put it on him. You know, barroom brawler type. I really like Carlos Leal.
Yeah, same, and that's exactly a correct assessment because like Morono, I think just thought it was going to be a different type of fight, and we've talked about this plenty of times too, where it's like if you start off in the driver's seat and you're pushing the pace. So what I talk about with pressure fighting all the time, why it's so important. You know, you get yourself into the forward momentum early when the other person is not expecting that type of output from you, then this is exactly the type of fight that you can have. So obviously he's got some good power. You know, I don't want to speculate too much as to the juice because you know the back full of acne being there and then gone is a little bit suspicious, but you know, I'll at least digress on that until I get something a little bit more substantial to go off of. But either way, power certainly seemed to be there. The navigation, as far as the intelligence in the fight goes, was there as well. He's a Muay Thai fighter that showed really nicely in this fight, and just a really solid, dominant performance. Got to give it up to the guy. I'm looking forward to seeing him fight again.
Oh yeah, for real. I mean, hopefully, like I said, when it's fights like these, and they get on the mic, and I don't really know if he said that he wanted to fight again quickly or if he wants to get back and run it again. But like fights like these, I would hope they get back in there and run it again quick. You know, not that you need to not have a full camp, but like at least get in the room with somebody and start talking about fights because you just smoked this dude. And if you really want to make some progress, it's 2025. You've seen people go from, you know, nothing to title fights in just years. You know, you can start now. Carlos Leal, if you want to be fighting some bigger names, get back in there and knock out. I mean, Alex Morono is a pretty big name as of, I mean, for your second fight, but
Sure.
go ahead and keep going. I mean, get back in the gym.
Yeah, I mean, look, you know, we see people like Kevin Holland doing this exact thing. I don't know why it's not more common, especially for performances like this. You know, you hear all these guys say, "I'm ready to fight again next week." You know, a couple of guys end up actually getting that. I give Rainier de Ritter some credit for that. You know, I mean, he was a dude who said it, and they're actually seem like they're booking him pretty regularly. So maybe Leal will be one too.
I actually think we we maybe predicted it perfectly. A couple weeks ago, Modestas Bukauskas, he said that he was ready to go. I'm ready to fight again. I want to get more fights in this year. And then later on, Ian Cutelaba said that he wanted to fight more and he's ready to go again. And now they're booked to fight each other. So like that's what I'm talking about. Like
Yeah,
do that shit more.
absolutely. And as we go into this next fight here, we'll talk about it in a second. I mean, we've been seeing a lot of trimming of the fat when it comes to the roster. You know, it seems like every week the number of fighters that get cut is increasing. I mean, it's, you know, occasionally in the past we'd have one or two fighters that it's like, okay, that makes a lot of sense that either they're at the end of their career or they've had, you know, several losses in a row, whatever. Over the last couple of weeks, it feels like we've been having like 4, 5, sometimes even 6 fighters getting cut at a time. They're trimming fat. So it's like if you're going to trim the fat away, then you want to keep the meat. These are the meat. Keep putting them back in. Like keep them active. Keep them going.
It actually makes more sense, and I'm not trying to throw this in like right in the middle of the card that we're discussing, but I think it does make a good point. Now that they've just announced they're having their own boxing league, maybe they're clearing the roster for those guys. So get rid
Okay.
of these heavy pay, and you know, Rosenstrike is probably making a pretty good amount of money at this point in the UFC. They can get rid of him because he ain't making no money for the UFC no more, kind of deal. I don't know. So
Could be. I mean, they did say that they don't want UFC fighters in the new boxing promotion. So maybe some of these guys that get cut, maybe that's how they take a few over there for cheap. That could, you know, I don't know.
mm, mm.
Yeah, it could just be a cost cutting measure. It could be something to do with rosters and all this kind of stuff. I have not been paying too much attention to the boxing thing because I've never really cared all that much about that endeavor in general for Zuffa or whoever, you know, is you know, Dana's little pet project, basically. Like that's always just kind of been like a big side thing that I have not had much interest in. But if it starts to play more of a part in MMA, you know, in the MMA world, then maybe there's some merit there. We'll have to keep our eyes open.
I hear you. All right, back to the fight. So
Back
yes,
to the fights.
yeah, back to the fights. There we go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, did you have anything else for
No,
Leo?
I was just gonna say, shout out him. He's slowly becoming a favorite of mine.
Yeah, absolutely. I enjoyed that fight very much. Looking forward to his next one. But along the same thought process, and we'll talk it through here. But this is Bruno Ferreira versus Armin Petrosian. And after this display, you talk about cutting the fat. I think that Armin Petrosian is ripe for the snipping over here, dude. Get this guy the fuck out of here.
Yeah, it's actually pretty crazy to think that he was 9-3 when I first saw him. And I said, dude, this dude's record is not very good. And and then Shar knocks him out. So he comes in here 9-4, and I'm like, guys, he has almost more losses, like 50% losses on his record. Like, and then he comes in here and now he's 9-5. It's like, dude, there's no way that we can. No way. You gotta go. This is just not top tier talent. It makes you wonder, how do you get here? Because we've known for a while that this dude is just not that good. It's been 2 fights now that they've given him strikers where he's supposed to, make something happen. And he just, dude, getting subbed by Bruno Fajeda is ridiculous. The first sub that this dude has probably ever had in his career, and it's a triangle armbar. It was nasty.
Yeah, I mean, and sneaky quick the way that Bruno did end up getting it in. I actually give him a lot of credit for that part of it, but it's a lot easier when it's against Armin Petrosian, who is kind of fighting like a little bit of an idiot. So basically, the way that I looked at this fight was, it's not just that I didn't think that Petrosian was very good in general, even though that's probably true. It's also the fact that he's just a little bit of a gamesmanshipy kind of bitch of a dude. I'm
He
really
gets
like,
beat a lot. Yeah, you're
so
right.
I mean, look, he goes for there's the initial kick to the dick. That was a little bit questionable. It looked like it might have been a grazing shot, whatever. You know, it was not super substantial, right? But it happens. The referee calls time for it, whatever. Bruno gets his time to recover. Immediately comes again with a second, way more on the button, on the money, shot to the dick, loud. You hear that thumping sound against the cup. I mean, it's just, bro, come on, man. I mean, like, I think that it was it shows a lack of awareness just in the first place, because it wasn't like it was a crazy motion exchange that was happening. Like there was motion happening, but that's a fight. But it wasn't like, we're not talking about flyweights here. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, it's not like these guys are jumping all over the place with crazy lateral movements left and right all the fucking time. Like, these are middleweights. These are bigger guys. So the motion is much slower. And to, hit him directly again, it's like, Jesus Christ, dude, come on. So to, I think, everybody's surprise, Mark Smith actually took the point, which I was like, wow, what a novel concept for that to happen. But it was like 1 shot, 2 shot immediately afterwards. I think that was appropriate.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Oh,
yeah.
My bad. Yeah, I thought you were finished. Yeah.
No, I didn't know if you had any thoughts about that.
It was interesting because we saw a lot on this card, teep kicks and them getting caught on the shorts. Like, I don't, and DC was talking about it's a specific cup that I don't know how that would, the Thai cup versus the traditional like wrestler cup, whatever you want to say. But like, I don't know. There was a lot of teep kicks. Josh Van's fight, he had a couple of them where the toes were getting caught on the shorts, but the shot was not connecting necessarily to the cup. These ones, the first one, okay, sure. The second one was just direct impact right on the dick right after the break. I don't know why people were so surprised. That's the problem, is because we were so surprised. We're just so desensitized to it. Like, that we should be like, oh yeah, point. Yeah, he definitely kicked him in the dick 2 times in 10 seconds. Like, we just watched him take a break. You're ruining the experience now for us. This is a 10-minute break in theory. Point taken. You're going to lose the fight unless you fucking make it fucking good. And listen, shout out Mark Smith. He's got some fucking nuts. I'll tell you that. And he's ended some fucking fights that I don't like, but he's got some nuts. I'll tell you that. The britches are huge that dude puts on the morning.
Yeah, and rightly so. I mean, I think that it was a good deduction. I think that Henry Cejudo had the funniest comment. They show the tweets on screen every once in a while there, and Henry said, "I really wish that Mark Smith was reffing my fight." I was like, I think that there's probably some merit to that one, but regardless. So, I mean, Arman comes back, has some decent kicks, but Bruno just has bulldog power. He's one of those kind of guys, really a gritty fighter. So he was making it dirty and exactly what he needed to do. And then round 2, Petrosian tries a little additional gamesmanship by saying that a body shot from Fajeda was a low blow when it clearly was not. It was on the belt line, brother. Give me a fucking break over here. Fajeda is like, what are you talking about? And I think we all kind of were as well. And then thankfully Mark Smith, goes to the ringside officiating, and the replay says it was a clean shot, and they start it right back up. Finally, a good usage of the replay system, when in Nevada, we know that we've had many times that it has not been used effectively. So I was happy to see that at least. But then Fajeda gets the takedown, does some really nice wrist control. I don't think that was getting enough credit during the initial takedown. He had Petrosian's wrist controlled really nicely when they were kind of in the hunched over position, not letting him get a lot of motion. But then Petrosian just blatantly grabs the fence. No call on that one. Was kind of a fight-altering situation there. At least DC was saying so, because it didn't allow for Petrosian to get flipped over. Whatever, fuck this guy is the note. But either way, Bruno makes him pay for it with a really nice sneaky armbar to finish it off, which was very thankful. I was very thankful to see that happen, because it could not have happened to a nicer guy or a more professional guy in Arman Petrosian. That blast double was a great way to start that sequence also, by the way.
That's what I was actually going to say. It's like Bruno in this fight, it's really funny to watch him go from a dude who just throws meaty hooks to Hamza in like an instant. He just doubled. He runs across the cage and tackles bro like a football player, and gets him down, holds the wrist, of course, pounds him a little bit. I was praying for him to get a shot that just knocked Arman just a little bit off, where he just cowered a little bit, because like he's one of those dudes that, and Bruno knew this, you get him deep enough in a sub and he's gonna fucking tap. Like it wasn't, listen, the arm was gonna break, but like Arman, you probably could have done a little more there. I'm just saying. Listen. Anyway, it was pitiful. I didn't like, and I've been using that word a lot, but this one is the one that deserves it. And I've said it a lot about Arman, and I'm really glad that we were right about this. No way on earth does Bruno Fajeda, who only wins by finish, comes in here at a plus 115. ridiculous. I don't know.
Yeah, and I have seen you throw in that image of Yanni the Greek up in the Discord of him picking Petrosian to win this fight. So for everybody listening out there, you can go with the guys on TV, or you can stick with last week's fights. I mean, maybe
That's
there's a
the
little bit.
betting expert, guys. He told you to take Armin Petrosian money line at -140, and that's what ESPN pays a dude for. I'm just saying.
Yeah. So the only other thing, yeah, you touched on it a little bit there, but they were talking about the steel cup versus the plastic cup usage. I think that everybody would want to go with the steel unless it's a movement disadvantage. We talked about that a little bit on the watch along, like what the reasoning for not having the steel cup is, if that's an option. I didn't know if it was a legal piece of fight attire or not, but I guess apparently it is. So if that's the case, I mean, Joe Rogan had mentioned that it gives a good leverage point for like arm bars. That might be a reason that some guys wouldn't want to use it, or why it shouldn't be legal. Like I didn't really fully grasp like what the correlation was with that, but either way, it would seem that if you want to keep the old twig and berries protected, that maybe you should all be going to the steel cup, because that plastic dealie is I mean, you're fighting a little bit compromised, I would say, or at least more open.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
maybe
I don't
that's
really have much more else to say
all right.
about this one. I mean,
There you
great
go.
performance. Great
Yeah.
performance by Bruno, really.
Yeah, great performance by Bruno. Really nice to see him get a submission, and Armin Petrosian can certainly go right on the chopping block as far as I'm concerned. I mean, a couple losses now, and the guy is just a little bit of a dirtball. I was not happy with this guy.
It's funny that, you think he's a slime ball and stuff is because this was labeled as Hulk versus Superman. So, I mean,
Well, then Hulk smash.
yeah, no, seriously, loved it.
Loved it as well. Well, I guess it has come time. Putting it off for long enough. Let the Josh Van glazing begin. This is Josh Van versus Ray Saria. Chase, take it away.
I'm really glad Josh was a favorite is because people are catching on. And Ray being primarily a wrestler, and actually he's primarily a grappler. He was turned wrestler in this matchup because Josh Van, the king of sprawling, holy shit, does this dude know how to do a sprawl? And they said it on the commentary, we'll bring it up again. Bro did not know how to wrestle until 6 months before his UFC debut. And now he's one of the best defensive wrestling flyweights. Like as of right now, that solidifies it. Cody Durden was not able to do anything. He wasn't able to get any advancement on it. Ray Saruya shot 21 takedowns. I told you he was turned to wrestler because he could not hold him down. There was actually points where Josh, at the end of the first round, he did something interesting and it got him on the bottom position at the end of the day, but it was a good attempt. It showed that he was willing to, figure a way out. And even if he got taken back to the bottom, he'll get up from there too. There was also a point where Josh was in full guard and he just decided to stand up. He just did the old Derek Lewis method. He just stood up. I was like, what? How did he was about the same size on his feet as he was on his back. It was so crazy. He just stood up and there was no combating it. And like I always tell you guys, this dude knows how to just turn up in a fight. First round, he measures what you're gonna do. He'll lay it on you a little bit, give you little basic combinations, and you're getting diced up by that. So he knows you're fucking cooked in the second and third round. Second round, he comes up, he starts mixing in a lot of body shot combos, going up top. The clinch work, and like the moments that they were together were really good for Josh because it showed good instincts on his end. Like for somebody who's just normally just punching the shit out of you, he was looking really good defensively, trying to make some moments happen where he was getting strikes off in the clinch. So it wasn't just it wasn't just Ray holding him against the cage. It wasn't just Ray holding him on the ground. Josh was also peppering in the shots to not. He wasn't going to win in the scorecard for that regard, but he was at least inflicting damage. There was this one point where Ray was, I think it was late in the third round. Ray had, crotch sniffing as normal, and Josh is just pounding these big left shots into his body. And then, Ray had to switch positions, and then he goes to the other side and just starts pounding these huge body shots. One thing Josh knows how to do is land shots to the body. At the end of the third round, Josh Van lands a monster shot to the body, and Ray goes down claiming it was a low blow. We also had a couple here, but these ones were clean. These ones were, the first one was a little skeptical, but when you're watching the replay, it was clean. You give him the time, that's cool, whatever. The second one in the third round, Ray claimed it was low. Josh said, no, it wasn't. You go to the replay, and that was a legal strike that put him down. Start that shit back up. Josh Van should have got the finish, but I'm really happy with this. This was another all-time performance. Like, look at the striking numbers that you got on paper. 127, 169, and he's just out there doing his fucking thing. Historic numbers. This dude is going to be a Hall of Famer if he keeps doing shit like this.
Well, there you go. Heavy praise indeed. Shout out to TJF saying that this is justified glaze. I would agree. I mean, the only real counterpoint to this is that if I said that Jordan Santos and Ozzy Diaz were one-dimensional, I don't think that there's anybody more one-dimensional than Ray Sarria. I mean, this dude, he was never taught the subtle art of punching when it comes to this MMA game that he is playing anywhere along that road to the UFC that he won. But I mean, look, this was goated takedown defense for Van for sure. And yeah, the Josh Van literally embodying the jiu-jitsu isn't real, just get up meme in the last minute of round one was certainly something to behold. I was very impressed with that. Derek Lewis all day long for sure. I guess the one standout moment that Sarria had was he had that really nice shoulder throw, took Josh up and over in round two. That was impressive, but that was really the only standout moment. Only real strikes from Sarria were a couple of those spinning attacks, which, they didn't land super clean. I think one did. I think one spinning back fist landed, but like other than that, it was kind of halfway shots that just sort of grazed and weren't super effective. So, I mean, one dimensional is about as kind as you can be with this guy without going into really, really negative territory, because it's like, bro, you're fighting like you want to be doing a different sport here. You know what I mean? Like, you should be doing jiu-jitsu competitively, or you should be doing wrestling competitively. Like, if you're not going to strike at all, there is the mixed martial arts for a reason. You have to mix it up. You have to learn how to strike. You're not going to go anywhere in this sport if you can't do that. So as much as this was a really solid performance for Van, I think that to be 100% fair, I think that it was kind of just a bad performance for Sarria as far as what he was bringing to the table. So it made it very easy for Josh Van, who is a lot more seasoned and a guy who has a very bright future in front of him, a lot more experience and a lot of good things to come. I would have liked to see him finish this fight. That would have been a nice way to cap off the one-dimensional nature of Sarria and in a really emphatic way. But short of not getting that, complete domination for Van, aside from some choice moments. And I think that it's very telling that with 1 minute left in round three, Sarria had 17 total significant strikes. Van had the same number in round two alone, all while defending the takedowns.
Yeah. Ray in this fight fought a lot like Kyler Phillips did in his last fight against Rob Font. Just very passive on the feet, and Ray, on the other hand, was actually able to implement a game plan that he thought was going to work. Kyler just did nothing. But Ray was at least shooting. It wasn't working, but in his mind, he was going to get it eventually. So you can't fault him for believing in himself, because he tried. He was the dog in this, so it's not like we're over here preaching that Josh Van overcame something great. Like you said, much more seasoned. We all knew that Josh Van is on a different path right now. Ray is just some come up right now. Get back to the bottom of the leaderboard right now. We'll see you later. Josh Van also, I would like to say, and I kind of felt this, he was gonna big brother Ray, and that's what he did.
Sure.
He's got that Manel cap kind of. He's just gonna big boy you. You're gonna be the little guy, and he's gonna be able to put the pounding on you, and he's gonna spook you and put you out of your game. Ray, maybe he was off his game, like you said, it wasn't a great performance. Hopefully, he doesn't try to fight like this all the time, where he's just a fucking Chrome Gracie, kind of deal.
Right.
But that's actually that's glory right there. I just glorified Chrome Gracie for the performance that Ray had. Sorry, but Josh Van is just that guy. I really love him. And it's unfortunate that he's not labeled as a power puncher. I'm telling you, we're gonna get more finishes from this dude. He's been training submissions a lot, and the strikes just add up for him. He's one of these dudes that'll just put numbers on you, and a lot of people just won't be able to take it. Ray, I'm telling you that third round he should have been finished. He wanted to cry about the low blow. What else? Josh Van though, he's gonna start racking up finishes, and it's gonna be really really good people, and that's what's gonna stand out on his resume. He's a decision merchant right now, but he's still young and he's still getting into he's still growing into his body and stuff like that. He's gonna put a little bit more on. Maybe he's gonna move up somehow, some way. But as of right now, once the finishes start adding up and you guys start seeing names like, oh, he finished such and such, or oh, he finished this, it's going to look really good later on down the line, because he's going to be here for a while. I know we talk about Raul Roses, but like, he's young. Yeah. Josh Van ain't too far off. He's still in the young category. To make note, these are the first two UFC fighters to match up that had been born after 2000. These guys are young. These are little Will baby. So I don't know. These are just really, really good. Love Josh Van. I can't wait for him to get another dub. Hopefully he gets another fight soon. He's a very active fighter, and that's what I love about him too. And that's why, in the God's glory, Josh Van is in my heart. I tell you that.
You should. The only thing left is for you to pull the hoodie up and you be wearing the shirt that you've made. Yeah. Chase has a shirt that has a person looking in the mirror, and it says the man, or envisioning the man that I want to become, and Josh Van is reflecting black. So that's, yeah. Chase is a very big Josh Van fan, as you very well might know after listening to all of that. But I agree. I mean, I really don't think that anything that you're saying is off the mark, honestly, especially also about the age. You're exactly right about that. I mean, this is a sport where when you start off as young as Van is starting off with the success that he's had, there really is the ceiling is very high. There's really not too much of a cap that you can put on him at this point. Also having taken some adversity as well. I mean, the Charles Johnson fight is what it was, but that's a learning experience for a young guy too. I'm always okay with fighters at this stage in their career taking losses that make them better. And I think that the learning experience from a fight like the Charles Johnson fight is only going to improve him overall in the grand scheme of things. And then fights like this are a nice way to continue to build the resume, get a little bit more of an understanding of the motion when it comes to the way that Cerullo was approaching the fight. I think that that's a learning experience in and of itself as well. So yeah, the Josh Van has a long road ahead of him to continue doing great things. And if Chase is correct and he starts to really mix in these finishes, which is what we're hoping is the case, he would be a little bit of an undersized bantamweight if he did move up. It'd be a little bit of a tough sell in a higher weight class, but it's not out of the question. It's certainly not out of the question. There are a bunch of smaller guys up there too that have been having some pretty good success, including the champion. So there's a lot of options and opportunities for Van going forward, and I think that it's going to be fun to see him continue down the road.
I think what just makes him so unique as of right now, one, I mean, I wanted to mention actually, he has stated that he wants to be champion. It goes a long way. If you put out there that you want to be something in this sport and you're not just a jobber, like you get your shit done, and people will recognize, and they'll come around and they'll be like, yo, when's my guy gonna get his title shot? Like, when's this. So shout out to Josh Van, he's on it. But what's so unique is Josh Van has the instincts of somebody who wants to win fights. Whatever you throw at him, he, great coaching aside, whatever you throw at him, he's able to pull off what he believes is the way to get out, or the way to win. And he never really feels a lack of confidence. Like, he goes in there and he's always calm and collected, having a good time. Like, he's now in the UFC life. Like, he's been here enough where when he comes out in his walkout, he's having a good time, having fan moments, shaking hands, he's there. And then he's just able to lock in and showcase a lot of different forms of martial arts, things that you wouldn't even think that he'd be able to do. Like Josh Van throwing high kicks, and he's so short. It's like, damn, he can really get his fucking leg up there. You know, like, I don't know. Like, it's just stuff like that where he goes for a lot of knees too in the clinch. And it's like, little guy, you're not going to be able to get that. Come on, dude. And it's just like, you know, he's trying. Like, he's doing the things that you would know is like, you know, he's grabbing the head, throwing the knee up. It's not going to go, but like he's doing he's in the flow of the game right now. You know, he knows what you're doing and he's doing the move to counteract it. So I think it's really good on his part. Whether it's not going to get it in this fight, he might get a short guy next fight. He might get it. Bruno Silva, if you stop running, we'll catch you with the knee in the clinch and we'll show you what's up. But as of right now, I mean, Josh Van is just my guy.
Well, there you go. Josh, if you're looking for management, Chase is available. So maybe some representation in Chase's future with how big of a supporter he is. But yeah, I agree, and I think that Van is he's a fun guy to watch. So keep doing that. That's really all that I got from it. I mean, you know, I want to see more out of him. I do want to start seeing those finishes though, because that's really going to be the thing that'll set him apart going down the road. But once that starts happening, then you know, sky's the limit. Keep on going, brother.
What I actually think is key, even if he doesn't get finishes, even if I'm wrong, if he doesn't, it's not like he's racking up split decisions that are like questionable. True. You're wondering like, why is this dude winning? Like, what is he doing? He's not on a 12-fight win streak on like Gomi, where you're just questioning who the fuck, like how the fuck, you know. Josh Van is warranted these decision wins. He's putting on dominant performances, not only early on in his career, but he's doing it, you know, in the most valuable moments. Like, he's not wasting a time. He's not going to get knocked down by Charles Johnson and then come out and have a slouch performance and then come out and have a good one. No, he came right back. He came out here and have a great performance with Edgar Chavez. He came out and had an amazing performance with Cody Durden. He came out in here, had an amazing performance with Ray Saruya. I mean, he's just a guy that is on his shit right now. And I'm telling you, it's just, you know, when you see this dude for the first time. I know you can't do that anymore, you know, for the first time in his career, and you just see a star in the making. Like, and here we are, and I still see it, man. He's just that guy.
All right. Well, I mean, I think that what more needs to be said, right? You know, good win for Van here, and keep doing it. And Chase will continue to say these exact same things. Fight and fight again if you do just that. So good job, 100%. Josh. All right. Well, let's keep this thing moving along here. Another fighter that is deserving of a little bit of praise and certainly has now made a believer out of me. This is Mauricio Rufy versus King Green. It's actually Mauricio Rufy. I keep doing the Portuguese pronunciation, but he pronounces it with the R, and it's not even really his last name anyway. We found this out recently that he took the last name based on the One Piece character Luffy, but it's Rufy for whatever reason. Anyway, I digress. Mauricio Rufy versus King Green. What did you think of this fantastic knockout for Mr. Rufy?
I think what is unfortunate is that I made a joke earlier on the week. I'm like, man, Mauricio Silva is really this dude's name. And I wasn't too far off. You know, it's Mauricio Santos, if anybody has questions. That was the name on the shirt that in his shorts. Doesn't say Rufy anymore, which I don't know why they wanted to make that distinction, or maybe he decided to stop representing he wanted to represent his own name in the ring. I don't know. But Santos was on the shorts, and I can tell you that Bobby Green did not see anything when Mauricio Rufy threw a wheel kick at him, so it doesn't matter what's on the shorts. But it was pretty brutal, because this is at the time when, you know, the main card starts, so everybody who's watching is at absolute different times in the stream or whatever. So when people say, damn, oh my God, I'm like, ah, shit, well, he must have fucked him up bad. But I could not have imagined him fucking him up as bad as he did. And I will say this on top of that, is this did not go any other way than I expected. This probably went just as perfect of a dream that I could have had about this fight. Like, oh, Mauricio Rufy's going to catch him with a fucking wheel kick, you know, like, but it actually happened. Bobby Green fighting with his hands down, gets caught with like a straight right that kind of staggers him. They get back on the cage. And then Mauricio feints. It wasn't necessarily a feint. It was, you know, he sold the left hook. and then just whipped around for a heel kick. And Bobby, the way he was standing, the kick came and he couldn't. I'm sure he didn't see anything coming, and it just put him out in a vicious way. The way that he fell, dude, just face first, sliding on the mat, like, ooh, was it
Yeah.
bad?
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Going into this thing, it was hands low Bobby, as always, versus unorthodox movement from Rufy. So it was an interesting equation going into the fight to begin with. You've got Bobby, who sort of navigates fights in his own way. He's trying to bait people a lot with the low hands, but Rufy, with all of his own unorthodox attacks and the wide stance that he has. Of course, the Portuguese Brazilian Connor is always brought up. I was always a little skeptical of that because he does a lot of very flashy moves. And that, I think, is what was making me skeptical after the Yontop fight, even though, of course, Yontop was a lot heavier than him. Whatever. I thought maybe this guy is going to start running into some bigger adversity going forward when it's guys that are going to be able to give him more problems and are not going to accept all of the flashy stuff that he's trying to put forward. There's a lot of guys that when they start doing all of this flashy stuff, it looks really cool, but how effective is it always against higher level fighters? Well, we find out here in this fight that pretty goddamn effective if you do it right. As you mentioned there, Chase, the right hand early was a good sting to Green. It caught him off guard a little bit. And then that spinning wheel kick sent him to the great beyond. Shout out to Bloomis for getting a screen cap. He got a screenshot from the watch along. If you go to Instagram, Yama Show on Instagram, you'll see I posted the picture, but that is the reaction from me and Vitz King when that shot landed. And it is about as classic of a reaction shot as you can get because we were both floored by how amazing that kick was. It certainly conveys what we were feeling in real time. But as you said, I mean, really, I'm kind of parroting a lot what you said because it's all absolutely accurate. The setup with the feint was fantastic, but nowhere near as amazing as the fluidity of the kick. That was one solid motion. He sails that kick right through the temple and out goes Bobby. It was what I would say is picturesque.
Yeah, Muslim Salikov is probably smiling really, really hard right now because that's his move, man. That is his move, and Mauricio Rufy has definitely been watching some tape. And listen, I can't tell you how good of a knockout this was, but I can tell you that, with four strikes to be able to do something crazy like that to set up is nasty. But the fact that this is about as I expected it to go. I figured the first round was going to start and Rufy was going to starch him. I didn't think it was going to take this long, but like I obviously don't. I'm just expecting Hoofy to just go out there and fucking do his move right away. It's not going to work like that. He's got to set it up. He's got to do his little time. But yeah, no, he fucked him up. I really like this performance from Hoofy, and they're just adding up for the nerds, guys. The fighting nerds are the good ones.
I mean, as it's funny that you mentioned Muslim Salikov. I did say that on the watch along as well. Yeah, Muslim Salikov is definitely smiling over that one. But as far as the nerds go, the other thing that I had said, and I think this is the question, we were talking about Bryce Mitchell versus Jean Silva coming up, and after this knockout, I had said, who is going to stop these fighting nerds? Who is going to be the one that is going to figure out the fighting nerd equation? You think it's going to be Bryce? I'm not so sure. So two different fighters, two different fights. I understand that, but what are we seeing time and time again? Now, of course, we're going to talk about the main event in a little while, which will buck the trend of what have we seen time and time again, being the wisdom that you should always follow. But when it comes to these fighting nerds right here, right now, it really is them versus the world situation. And I'm not seeing much just yet that is screaming to me that they're going to be the one to be the nerd killer, because that's really at this point what it looks like we're getting to. We've had situations like this in the past. Sakuraba was the Gracie killer. We're looking for the Dagestani killers right now. I mean, some people saying Marab is one of those. There's a couple of guys that you can probably put in close category that way, or potentially could be coming up. We'll see if somebody can take down Islam. That's going to be a big one for that. But we have those kinds of things in this sport where there's a dominance in a group of people, and there, we need the silver bullet right now. So who's it going to be? I don't know who it is right now. We're still waiting on the one that's going to be the nerd killer, but the nerd killer is what we're waiting for, and we don't have it yet.
I actually want to point out, and I'll do this on this fight because I think it's important, that this is right when the pay-per-view would have started, and there was multiple fighters that I saw, and I assume there's a lot more people that went ahead and said that there was issues getting the pay-per-view and they weren't able to watch the fight. So I assume at the time, not many people were able to go ahead and see Mr. Mauricio Rufy's knockout, which would have been unfortunate for them because then they turn it on and the second fight comes on for them. So
yeah, we'll talk about that in just a little minute here. But yeah, this I put this on the knockout of the year list for sure. It's certainly an early front runner, I would say. Only a couple on there, but this is definitely one of them. And how about those nice little spin flips to celebrate? That was pretty fun.
Brazil, you have Michael Chandler now. Yeah, basically.
And called out Beneil Dariush. How about it? I mean, I would think Dariush would be shaking in his boots off of that one.
Dariush needs to be pushed out the rankings already. Fiziev should be in the rankings, but we'll talk about that.
Well, there you go. So, I mean, not much more to say about this amazing knockout. Mauricio, the man right now. And as I had said, too, I was a little bit skeptical coming into this one, but I guess I got to get on the train. Before we move on to the next fight, though, I do want to make note of Robbie Lawler getting inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame. I think anyone who does not agree with that should be exiled from this sport and have their fingers chopped off so they are never allowed to tweet again. To this day, still the best send-off in the history of the sport, in my opinion, after getting a knockout over Nico Price and then his video package in the same night. Absolutely fantastic. Chase, what are your thoughts on Robbie Lawler getting inducted into the Hall of Fame?
This was before my era of like watching. Like I know of like the all-time great matchups that he's had, kind of deal. One of my favorite moments, I'll go ahead and say, is when he dropped Ben Askren on his head. Fluke stoppage aside for that matchup, but yeah, I actually think coming back to the sport when Robbie Lawler came in for his retirement, I said, oh, like dope. Like I get to see like this is somebody that like is like out of my era for the time kind of deal. So seeing him like as an older vet, like I was kind of intrigued. Came in, knocked out Nico Price with an uppercut in the clinch, like folded dude. Like it was kind of crazy because it wasn't really the craziest strike, but like it just shows you like Robbie Lawler can just make anything happen. He just comes in there and does his thing, walks off, and then retired. It was actually kind of crazy to see. I was like kind of caught off guard, but it is what it is. It was a good little package. Bro was real emotional, and that made me emotional. And now we're just all men crying, and it's a whole big deal.
Strong men also cry. Yeah, no, for anybody who is newer to the sport, go back and watch Robbie Lawler versus Rory McDonald too. Still, maybe aside from the BMF fight with Max and Justin Gaethje, my favorite fight of all time. So, always a big shout out to Robbie Lawler. He is one of the good guys of the sport and a tough son of a bitch. Absolutely, 10,000% deserving of being in the Hall of Fame. So that was a good one.
And to say that was the most interesting thing for the next 30 minutes of the event, that was, yeah.
All right, let's get into it. It's Amanda Lemos versus Yasmin Lucindo. Yasmin. Yasmin. Yeah. We talked about Andrea Lee versus JJ Aldrich recently, right? We talked about that fight a couple of weeks ago, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
And what I had said in that fight was it really bothers me when you get fights like this because it gives people who have a negative impression of women's MMA more ammunition. And this fight right here, Lemos versus Lucindo, is squarely in the exact same arena. 0 strikes for Lucindo in round 1 and round 2. That's a serious goose egg. This fight was for a top 5 ranking in women's strawweight. Let that sink in.
This was hard because I at the beginning, you know, it happens most of the time. I'm not going to sit here and go on a rant again, but most of the times I make my initial judgment at the beginning of the week, and then I listen to everybody, and most of the people, you know, we go with an answer, and we're like, okay, Lemos is not the move, and Lemos, you know, odds against her, but she was able to come out here and wrestle for some like, you know, she just magically knows how to fucking wrestle after for the last 4 fucking fights her not being able to do a goddamn thing in that department. This was very bad on Yasmin, especially because it's actually, it's not that I care when people lose me money. You know, I've lost plenty of money. I'm okay with that. It's the fact that they come out here and they act like they don't want to fucking fight. Like that is the biggest problem. If 0 strikes in round 1 and 2 is the actual truth to the matter, honestly, she needs to fucking go. If I ever see her lying on Vegas again, like I the option just better not be available. That's so ridiculous. Lamos, shout out you. I had faith in you originally, and I let my brain do the talking, not my heart, and that was really what the key. I should have just listened to my heart because Yasmin, I knew. I've seen her fight. Guys, listen, I'm telling you, I've watched her fight with my own eyes, and I still thought against that. Like, she's not good. And even in the fight that she won, she just wasn't good. And it's like, it makes me frustrated that these are the people that I end up putting my money on. Like, I could have just, you know, I could have made $5 on Josh Van, you know? Wouldn't that have been nice? I could have got a McDonald's burger with Josh Van money. Like, it's
Yeah, that's tough. Look, it was a dominant performance for Lemos, but it really was a lot of inactivity from Lucindo. You know, this seems to be a little bit of a trend on this one where it's a lot of one fighter having a really solid performance almost based on the opposition that they're experiencing from their opponents. You know what I mean? Like the opposition they are experiencing from their opponents. A lot of control for Lemos, not giving Lucindo much room to work. But if she's not trying to work, then what work is there to be done? I appreciated Lucindo's corner hammering her after round 2, trying to light a fire under her ass, which was much needed. And to Lucindo's credit, she did listen. She did try to come out in round 3 a little bit tougher. She was trying to be a little bit more active, but by then it wasn't nearly enough. And even with that activity, it wasn't nearly enough. It wasn't going to be enough. Getting a takedown, doing nothing with it, Lemos reversing it to seal the deal. I mean, it just was a really poor display from Lucindo's side. And, you know, I mean, look, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but I mean, the veteran status of Lemos was why I went with her. And when you have a fighter that's going to give you open range, which is what Lucindo ended up doing, then this is what a veteran fighter should do. So I'm very glad that she navigated the fight the way that she did, even though it was rather boring to watch, as I will admit. The only other note that I had was that Lemos had her toes all up in the cage in round 3, and Keith Peterson did not do a fucking thing about that. Keith Peterson showing another lack of awareness, which is a little bit unfortunate and something that seems to be a little bit of a trend, Keith. You know, I've been having my eye on you for a while, pal, and these kinds of things, you know, you think that these fans forget, but you got fans like us. We don't forget. So anyway, that's all I
yeah.
really had to say about this one. There's really not much more to say. It wasn't a very eventful fight. It was a dominant one-sided performance with Lemos on top, and Lucindo, I mean, really back to the drawing board as to whether or not this is the kind of thing she wants to do. Because if you're not going to go out there and throw hands, you're not going to go out there and be able to wrestle, then there's not much for you in this sport, sad to say.
There was so much time for the commentators to just jib jab that they talked about the haircuts of these women, and golly, I mean, to be honest, like it don't get no better in the commentary space. Not gonna lie, these guys are funny. Like if you are a casual viewer, you gotta be laughing when these guys be talking. Like Jesus Christ, they're talking about getting up out the barbershop chair and like, you know, like dude, like shut up, like
Oh
fuck.
yeah. No, there was that. They were talking about a completely different fight for an extended period of time during this fight. I noted that on the watch along as well. I mean, yeah, this was one of those kinds of fights. And you're right. This is where the commentary team really does shine with the trolliness. And John Anik is the smoothest troll in the game. Gotta love John Anik, man. Cause like he does the same thing. We talked about it. I think I think it was during the JJ Aldrich fight, actually, during the Andrew Lee fight, where he'll really punch the delivery on certain things just as a troll. It's like, bro, Attic rules, man. I love this guy.
No, oh my gosh, no. And then the fight ended. They rang the bell 5 seconds early. And so the women are getting up, hugging and kissing, which was actually pretty crazy. They gave us 5 extra seconds to have the women kiss, which was crazy. And then John Anik goes, well, the bell just rang 5 seconds early, but I guess the commission's they know what's going to happen here.
Yeah, the merciful end to that one. Yeah, no, indeed. Yeah, that was pretty funny as well. So, I mean, not a whole hell of a lot more to say about it, but I'm kind of glad that I predicted it right. At least it, the thought process was there, the logic was there, and it came through for that reason. So I'm happy about that. Lemos has dog money. I guess there's some merit to that one at least. Hopefully somebody got a little bit of bump off of that, and again, and retains her top 5 position. That's what I said at the start when we were breaking this one down. You got to remember, I mean, like, we're kind of memeing on it a little bit. This is a top 5 ranking in the strawweight division for the women. This should say, like, if you are a woman out there and you are a mixed martial artist, go and become great, embody greatness, because if this is the level that you're getting in the top 5, there is a place for you in the top 5. That's what I think any woman who fights strawweight right now should be thinking to themselves. I could go out there and beat Amanda Lemos with that performance. I could definitely beat Yasmin Lucindo with that performance. Like, go out there and prove it, because there is a spot waiting for you if this is what we're getting in a top 5 spot.
Another thing that I talked about specifically last week, and I talk about Gianni and his betting expertness. So we talked about the little ticker that happens at the bottom before the fight. Amanda Lemos was 2-5 as a dog, and the person under 25 was winning more than 65% of the time. So when the fight started, I was feeling pretty confident that I'd put my money on Lucinda, because I didn't love it, but Vegas knew something. The numbers were lying in the right place, and she unfortunately is just awful, like awful. Jesus.
Well, again, this is what I think is the big takeaway, is that Vegas is not always right. Vegas is not, they don't always know. So, I mean, keep it in perspective. Keep it in perspective. But I think that's all that I got on that one. We ready to move on?
Oh, we can move on.
Yeah, let's keep this thing going here. Jalen Turner versus Ignacio Bahamondes. Much more praise to be had in this fight. I wanted to start this one off real quick by mentioning Chris Weidman on the weigh-in show. I've had some. Let me say it this way. I've given Chris Weidman a lot of leeway when it comes to his existence in the sport. Former champion. I try to be fair with him, even through all of the eye pokey stuff in the later part of his career. I've always tried to cut the guy some slack, because he is the dude that took out Anderson Silva, all that stuff, from the past, right? But Weidman on the weigh-in show really fucking pissed me off, because Turner is there. Jalen Turner is in studio with them. And Chris Weidman is going through, they're talking about, Turner's accomplishments and this and that. And Weidman basically said something along, paraphrasing here, but he said something along the lines of, oh yeah, and Turner was doing a really great job up until the walk-off. And it's like, bro, yeah, we fucking know. Jalen Turner knows. And Jalen Turner is a super nice guy. Like, he's one of these like real salt of the earth, like good dudes. So he laughed it off. But I'm like, Chris Weidman, get this guy the fuck off of the broadcast. Like, go away, Chris Weidman. I'm sick of you at this point, dude. You've lost all favor that you might have had with me. So I just wanted to put that out there to start this, but also put it out there for another reason. The other reason is that Turner was already in a shaky mental state coming into this fight, and that'll become an issue going on through this assessment. So anyway, I just wanted to put that out there. Chase, what were your thoughts on this fight?
Well, I actually want to add to what you said.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Chris Weidman is supposed to be the American hero, not fucking Chael Sonnen. Like, he needs to not the talk shit in your face kind of deal. But either way, Chris Weidman sucks. This fight, very interesting, because I was really hoping Ignacio and Jalen were going to stand and strike for a lot of this. The fact it got to the ground, and how actually did it get to the ground? I can't remember now. Because it doesn't say they have an official takedown, which is interesting.
There was well, so it was a kind of it was an early flurry that was from both of them really. Like I actually thought that Ignacio looked a little bit sloppy in the initial exchange. But it was like a flurry that happened and then Bahamudas kind of just went for a sloppy entry. I mean, he just sort of like kind of collapsed onto him a little bit and I didn't, the takedown attempt wasn't great. Jalen actually ended up on top because of that. But then Ignacio ended up doing some really nice work off of his back.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Jalen Turner doesn't seem to have the ability to know that an arm bar is coming or whatever it was. It was a triangle, um, and it was just horrible defense for Jalen Turner. Ignacio showed off that he does have some grappling skills. Whether it was the best entry and whether his striking looked the best, I don't agree. His striking, it did look concerning at first. I don't know if he wasn't just like the hair and everything, it just looked like he was just in some weird mood. I don't know, but he was able to get it done. One
Yeah,
sub attempt and one finish. Excuse me. That's what I wanted to say. Go ahead.
no, sure. No, absolutely. And I mean, that's all that you really needed, right? I mean, when you're able to do what he did. I want to give a lot of praise to Ignacio Bahamundas in this, all of those things aside, what I said, the entry was a little bit sloppy. You might want to work on your singles, your doubles a little bit better. But when it came to him on his back, really good defense from his back and some really nice elbows off of his back. I was like, this is what you want to see out of a person who's on their back this way, because it almost looked like he was comfortable enough on his back to go to the sequence and obviously get what he wanted out of the exchange. So, I mean, like, a lot of times guys on their backs, they're looking like they're a little bit in no man's land. This is what you want to see. You're on your back, make the most of what you have in the limited real estate that you get. He was doing just that. So I think that was really nice. And then able to find the triangle and secure it, even without having his legs in the exact right position. That was the thing that we were talking about on the watch along a lot, is that if you saw the way that the positioning was, he didn't even have the leg fully in the crook, like not in the elbow of the, behind the knee, so to speak. Like he was almost in like this range, but just enough leverage able to be created with that and put enough pressure on it. I was like, this is really like high level work for Ignacio Bahamundas. I thought that it looked really sharp and able to get the job done was really impressive. Obviously working with Bilal Muhammad, paying off for some people.
I'm going to compare him to somebody, and I'm not trying to, I'll bring it up in a second. But what I think is interesting to note about Ignacio is that he's made it to Jalen Turner. In his last two fights that I've seen, he smoked that Manuel Torres dude, smoked him, 2 shots on a Saturday night type deal.
Right.
Jalen Turner, he gets through him, no big deal, submits him. And then now he's on his way to a pretty good contender next. And he kind of reminds me of Patty. They're getting through top level talent right now, taking no damage. Like they're literally just walking through them in a sense. So if Ignacio, two things. If Ignacio can continue to do this, great. If Ignacio gets into a war, I'm pretty sure he's going to be able to, like, I think he's got it. He's the type of dude that I feel like is going to be going through the hell to get a W. And when that happens, I'm going to know which dude it is. I'm obviously going to know the name of the person that he's fighting next because it's going to be a top person. It's just going to be interesting to see. Ignacio, I think all the skills are there. I think you could do a lot of interesting things. Like, listen, you've knocked some dude out, and I've seen you submit him. So all you got to do next is just keep doing it. Keep doing different things. Keep showing a variety in the skill set so people can't gauge what you're going to do. Keep training with Bilal, I guess. Fuck it, man. I mean, he's got your back.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the training with Bilal really showing in that. And on the other side of the coin, shout out to Beep checking in. Appreciate you, man. Saying, Jalen is supposedly a brown belt. Yeah, this was an unfortunate and really not great look for Jalen Turner in this fight, which you hate to see it for him because I really do like him as a fighter. I've had my criticisms of his style, but he actually did kind of match Ignacio's output starting off. That's what I was talking about with that flurry. It wasn't a one-sided deal. I mean, like they were going at each other. So it looked like he was ready to come into this fight with a little bit more of a fire in his belly. And of course, obviously coming off of the bad situation with Moicano that we mentioned here, it would like he really needed to elevate himself with this fight, which is what he mentally was looking to do. Left himself open while he was going for an elbow as Bahamundas repositioned himself, which, that's how the triangle ended up getting sunk in. And you hate to see it for him. he decides to retire, that it's tough. It's tough, and it really does show. That's why I kind of mentioned the Weidman thing at the start of this. The mental aspect of this game is very real. Chase and I did the free for all stream on Friday, and we were talking about the previous fight. It kind of came up in conversation, and I was talking about the mentality and the mental aspect of the sport. And like, this is a prime example of where the mental aspect can lead to if you end up in a situation like Turner got himself into here. He comes off of a loss that he really, in theory, did not have to take, kind of fucked with his head a little bit that way, comes into this fight like with that feeling like I need to win this fight, gets put away in the first round by a submission from a guy who's not known for submissions. The decision to retire he said he was considering it after 300. Maybe it's been something that's been in the back of his mind. We'll see if he sticks with that decision or if he's just going to take an extended time off, but he already took an extended time off coming into this one. So it's just a tough situation. And it really does show how the mental game is as important as the physical game in this fight business of ours. So I hate to see it for Turner because I really like the guy, but all the best to him.
And he's pretty young, like more young than you would think, Jack Shore type,
Sure.
So it's possible we see him back, but 14-9, I mean, it's got to be something interesting. He'll take a little time off, and then they'll offer him the Dan Hooker rematch or something,
Could be. And I also did want to make note that after the fight, in the post-fight presser, all class Ignacio Bahamondes. This guy, not only a great fighter, but seems like a real stand-up individual as well, because they asked him about Turner's retirement in the post-fight presser, and he said he didn't think that he should retire and offered to help him in any way that he could. He said, come out to Chicago and train. He was very supportive of Turner, saying what a great fighter he is and how much that he appreciated him, how Turner made him better through this fight, all the things that you want to hear out of a class act. So Ignacio Bahamondes getting really high marks for me on this one. He's definitely a guy I'm going to be keeping my eye on. And, unfortunate situation for Turner. So,
it's something to note. You want to talk about how great of a guy Ignacio is, or it seems to be.
Sure.
He is somebody that trains with Bilal, and you're only as good as the people you keep, or whatever the term is. So Bilal, maybe he's gaining some points just by osmosis here. Maybe that camp is really doing some good stuff. Shout out him and Juliana Pena. I'm trying to think of some other ones that are down there, but anyway.
Oh yeah, no,
that
for sure. Yeah, no, that team out in Chicago is definitely doing good things. So yeah, I know, I agree. And yeah, I mean, look, I've never been the biggest Bilal hater in the first place. So, I think that this all makes sense. I think Bilal carries himself like a bit of a clown sometimes, but as far as the fighting goes, I don't think you can really deny it. So yeah, the Bilal wrestling ability rubbing off on some of his students, some of his peers, and you love to see that aspect of it at least. So good on him, and keep doing what you're doing, Ignacio. I will certainly be watching, and Viva Chile.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah, indeed. All right, let's move on to this co-main event here. Justin Gaethje, Rafael Fiziev. Of course, Fiziev coming in on 12 days notice, filling in for the injured Dan Hooker. What did you think of this fight, sir?
This one is frustrating because in my heart, I picked Fiziev, and I wanted to go with Vegas again because, gosh, they must have known something. And to their credit, it was a good fight. It was close. I honestly thought it was a lot closer than a unanimous decision because first round, okay, easy for Fiziev. He got 2 takedowns, and it was easy too for him. I don't know why he did not go back to that. I mean, he was very tired, but I don't think that made as much of a factor until the third round, and it was kind of deep, not deep, but a little into the third round where he like hit like a wall of just like exhaustion kind of deal. But I thought the first round, great for Fiziev, showed that it was going to be a very gruesome 3 rounds. One of these dudes, and they already went to the bell, so I didn't think any of them were going to get finished, but it was going to be another gruesome war. Shout out to Fiziev for not wearing the damage as much as the first fight, but second round I thought was a lot closer. In my opinion, from what I was watching, Fiziev was going to win that round up until the knockdown, but I've heard different. I could be wrong. I did have money off of Fiziev.
Knockdown was in the first. Am I
This is
wrong?
the second round.
Second round? Was it second round? Okay.
Yeah, it was towards the end of the second round, I believe.
Oh yes, no, sorry, I had Fiziev taking the first round. Sorry,
Yeah,
I was misreading my notes. Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
gotcha. Yeah, no, you're fine. And so for the third round, like I said, Fiziev was definitely out of gas, and that was probably Justin's round. But I still want to say that would have been. I don't know. It was what I was watching because I couldn't get on the pay-per-view UFC. I had to watch a stream. They did not let me see much of this third round, but from what I was seeing, I was believing like, oh, with how the momentum looks, like how Fiziev is in the driver's seat at this direct moment, he's got to be winning the round. I unfortunately was wrong, and I can't say that I'm too mad because this is one of those calls that dude, it's a short notice fight for a dude who's been out for a full year. This is just a great comeback. That's why he deserves to be in the rankings. I know Checkmate, you said it earlier, he doesn't. For Dariush, oh, he deserves to be in the ranking. He just went to, in my opinion, a split decision win against Justin Gaethje, who's fourth ranked or whatever in the world. Whether that's what happened, whether you believe it or not, we've seen judges make calls that we don't believe all night. So this is the one that I'll believe. Fiziev could land 8 or 9 in the rankings, and there's plenty of people that need to start earning their fucking keep. They need to earn their place or get the fuck out. I know Dariush had a fight, and Moicano was going to be the man, but Dariush, get a fight, prove your spot, prove you still got it, and if not, we need some people like Fiziev who are new and young and still on the rise and can still have some stock to grow. You know, if Dariush is only here to get fucking citizenship awards or whatever the fucking the nice people award thing that he got when they were the Hall of Fame speech that he was there and he was the only person that didn't like get in the Hall of Fame. It was some award. I don't know what it was, but if he's only here for that, Fiziev needs to be in the rankings. That's all I gotta say.
Oh yeah, like that community service thing. I know what you're
There,
talking
there
about.
you
Yeah,
go. There you
sure.
go.
Yeah. Fair. I think you're making fair points on that. So as far as this fight goes, I think that you kind of alluded to it with the not wearing the damage as much. I think that that's really because this was a little bit more of a methodical fight than I at least expected in the grand scheme of things. I mean, they were getting their shots in, but this was not exactly like a run and gun fight between these two guys, as I think some might have expected out of Justin Gaethje. And some of his earlier performances. Of course, he has been more measured in his later performances, but this was measured on both sides, and I think to good effect. Honestly, I think it was a really solid fight overall. Fiziev with a really nice pair of takedowns in the first round. The second of which got Justin into that reverse triangle situation where Fiziev was quite literally sitting on Justin's head. The things that we go through for this sport kind of situation right
Yep.
there. Not necessarily where you want to be, but it happened. I think that Fiziev took that first round. Great body shots. Fiziev got a nasty scrape on his toe. They showed that
That was
ISO
so nasty. That was hot. Like, bro,
yeah,
the skin hanging off of it was wicked.
really, really gross, but didn't seem to hinder him at all. But so I said I think he took that first round. Both were getting good strikes in the second round, but Justin certainly found the rhythm by then. And as you said, he did drop him later in the second round. Very nice. So I had it 1-1 going into the third. And I mean, for people who are on the fence about this one, I would count myself in the same class. I mean, Fiziev started round 3 really strong, nice body shots, were body kicks rather, kicks and knees to the body, really paying dividends for him. But you're right, he did start to gas late in the round, and Justin had a few good moments there and certainly was able to keep the pace later into the round. So you could say that it was kind of even for that reason. Commentary was talking about the optics of him pushing the pressure and stuff, and I'm like, that's fine, but if the strikes were adding up for Fiziev before he started to gas and Justin really was just keeping pressure on but not landing very heavy shots, it seemed like Fiziev might have taken that round. It was very, very close. So I'm not like super mad at this like decision in the grand scheme of things, but I do agree that this probably should have been a split decision. I think at least one judge could have given Fiziev that round for sure. And I'm a little bit on the fence as to whether or not I even thought that Justin took that round altogether. So happy for Justin. I did pick him to win this fight. I was glad to see that he was able to win this fight under the circumstances, as you mentioned, coming in on short notice and being off for a while. He should have won this fight in my mind. So glad to see it for that reason. But Fiziev did great in this fight, and it was super close. It was super close. I think that there is certainly a case to be made that he won the fight.
Yeah, Fiziev is just one of these dudes that I've watched him a year ago, and it wasn't much of a fight. You know, he got injured against, it was Gamrot, right? Um, and Fiziev is one of those guys that when you watch him fight, he gives you some inspiration. Like, he's not the biggest dude, but he's really fucking stocky, and he's just a thick of muscle, and he's just a little pocket rocket, and you know, he seems like somebody you just want to root for. Like, he's a cool dude. He seems really fun. You know, the interaction that him and Justin have after the fight was really good. And like, bro, and Beeb is asking, what do I think is next for Rafael with the Dana Brownie points? I mean, ranked opponent again. I mean, obviously he just got one on short notice, but give him a camp, give him a main event, like headline the Apex if you don't think he's that marketable. But he needs to be a 5-round fight with somebody with fucking Dariush, man. Let's fucking get it.
You really are gunning for Beneil Dariush. I would say, I mean, Mauricio Rufy just called him out, so you know, maybe
Oh
that's
yeah,
going to be how he
true.
ends up getting out. But either way, I mean, no, yeah, I mean, Rafael Fiziev deserves high level competition still. I mean, whether or not it's actually a ranked position or not, I mean, I think that a performance like that would make it so. I mean, you got to remember, this is lightweight we're talking about here. This is a division that is ripe for some changing of the guards right now. I mean, you know, aside from the very top of the division, which is pretty solidified, you know, the champion, other than that, I mean, like, there's a lot of like potential movement to be had here. Now, Justin potentially getting a title shot at some point, Dana didn't seem too opposed to that, so we might have to go through that. Of course, we also have Ilia Topuria now making things interesting in that regard. We're gonna have to see what happens there. Perhaps Ilia and Justin. Who knows? I mean, that might be
Ilya and Fiziev. Let's go. Fuck
that.
it.
I mean, that would certainly be a good tester. You know, Ilia seems dead set on getting straight to the belt. I don't know if they're going to allow that or not. They might want the money fight. You know, champ versus champ. That's certainly the biggest fight I think that the organization could make outside of Jones and Aspinall right now. So there's a lot that is unanswered right now. But the point is that this division is one that we should be seeing a good amount of changeover and things happening, some good movement going on. So Fiziev being in the mix is 100% perfectly fine. And if he's not going to be ranked off of this, then he should be fighting ranked competition to get himself ranked.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how active he's going to be coming back from the injury. I mean, he might have to take a little more time in between fights. He did tweak his leg in the fight. I don't know if you saw that. The commentary caught up on it, but he threw a kick and he kind of stumbled a little bit. I was thinking in the moment, like, oh, I hope he didn't, you know, pop his shit again. But we'll see what happens. I hope to see him more active because, like I said, I like watching him fight. It's just unfortunate that they give Justin 2 unanimous wins against this dude. So now when you look at the record, it's like, oh, well, he lost to Justin twice. Like, it's like
Right.
it was a lot closer than just, oh, he lost to Justin.
Sure. Yeah, no, I agree entirely. Yeah, and so great job for Fiziev. Good job for Justin as well, obviously getting the win. Really nice. Close fight for both guys. And just before we move on, Beeb is asking Ilya versus Justin for interim. No, this would be Ilya versus Justin with Ilya moving up. So this would be his essentially title eliminator fight for either one of them to fight Islam Makhachev.
Oh, yeah.
All right, and let's finish out this card here with the main event. I mean, as we said in the beginning of this stream, brave new world that we have entered now. This is Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev. I mean, what'd you think, Chase?
This one was hard.
Yeah,
I mean,
hard to watch.
It was unfortunate that this was the performance. I mean, listen, 2024, Alex, we watched him have a dominant run. I mean, we're gonna look back on that and understand like that was insane to watch, to witness. This one right here, we might have saw a great fall. You know, Alex didn't have the best performance. It wasn't a performance where he's like, oh, he fell off, but I mean, he just wasn't able to do it, you know, and he's been knocking people. His game plan has always been just knock people out so I don't have to figure it out. and it didn't work this time. And granted, he did really good defending the takedowns, but even watching it, the first round was Alex. I can say that, but every round after that was no. Ankalaev definitely won very easily.
I mean, I'm thinking like, well, so you say that, you know, this isn't a performance where it's like he fell off. I don't want to say that it was that, but it's closer to that than not in my mind, because this was a really tough fight to watch for that reason. I mean, Ankalaev navigated this fight perfectly because he wasn't having to deal with anything up top. This was a low kick buffet on both sides. That was a big factor in everything. And I believe, I mean, I'm speculating here, of course, but I think that Alex was not wanting to let his hands go in this fight because he was worried about the takedowns. And that's, understandable with a guy like Ankalaev, but that gives Ankalaev all of the real estate on the planet to do what he wanted to do. So, I mean, he's in this position where he's not getting a lot of strikes coming back his way, and he's a decently savvy striker himself. So a lot of what he was throwing was landing. There was a lot of open space for him to do what he wanted to do, and I think he utilized it extremely effectively. He had some really nice front kicks when he started to settle in. Nice evasion from Alex's low kicks in the second round onward. That was a big point because there were so many low kicks thrown. I think that Magomed Ankalaev started to catch on. It wasn't full on checking him, but he was getting out of the way enough that they were kind of grazing his legs, so they weren't full on impact. That was a note that Vitzking made on the watch along. That left hand that rocked Poatan in the second was right there for him. And a lot of times, they said it on the commentary, they were fighting at such close range that it's like, you got to take some chances as you get later into this 5-round fight. And Alex just did not. I mean, as it got later into this fight, it really felt like Alex was not throwing next to anything. In 4 and 5, I feel like Alex threw maybe one significant strike. I mean, like numbers aside, like an actual significant strike. Aside from that, it was like he didn't have hands at all. And it was very concerning to me based on what we have seen in the past.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I mean, this was just a performance where, like I said, legend fell right here. This watching Ankalaev, I didn't even watch Ankalaev actually win. I mean, I knew the outcome, but actually get the belt wrapped around him. I obviously watched him win the fight. Sorry to clarify, but Alex just not being able to do anything, and then watching him get rocked and stumbled in the second. It just didn't play out how I thought this was going to go. I thought Alex was going to be on top forever, but the fact that he's not now, it is good that it opens up the division because now Ankalaev's beefing with everybody and he's going to have a target on his head, and Yuri's fucking first, and I'm excited for it. But Alex, as of right now, maybe he'll go to heavyweight. Maybe he won't. I don't know. I'm just excited to see what's next because he is a guy who's going to fight very often. So maybe he'll come back and save another pay-per-view headline, and it won't matter that he lost to Ankalaev right now. So who knows?
I mean, maybe. We're certainly entering a different era now with all of this being what it was.
Answer B.
Say what?
Answer Beeb real quick.
Beeb asks, do you agree with the immediate rematch? He does not, in his opinion. No, I also do not agree with an immediate rematch.
What are you guys talking about? This dude defended the belt, what, 4 times?
No,
3 times?
That does not factor into the equation based on the performance that he had in this fight. Because he did not look immediate rematches. There's a better case to be made for an immediate rematch for Sean Strickland and Dricus du Plessis than there is in this fight. And Sean ended up finally getting the rematch. It wasn't immediate though. Was it immediate?
It was immediate.
Okay,
it wasn't immediate.
Right. It was not.
Izzy was
exactly. So is there? Yeah, I mean, should he get a rematch at some point if he wants to stay at light heavyweight? Yeah, I would say so. But based on that performance, I don't think so. I mean, if you want to say off of champion privilege, so to speak, then yeah, I guess that is the argument to be made. But based on how he fought in this fight, and then also him having the nerve to say, and anybody who agrees with him, I think is insane. But he in the post fight saying that, Ankalaev clinched his way to a victory. He did not. There were only a couple of clinch exchanges in this entire fight. This is a 5-round fight, and I think they clinched up maybe 3 times total. So to think that this was just, Ankalaev was holding him against the cage the entire time, he wasn't. And even if he was clinching a couple of times, 2 out of those 3 clinch exchanges, Ankalaev was doing really nice work in the clinch. Like, I think that there was one time that Goddard broke him up that shouldn't have even been broken up. He was landing shots in the clinch. So I say all of that to say, dude, I lost my fucking house on this fight. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, I all of the parlays were sold down the river based on this fight. I am a Poatan fan. I would love to see, I wanted to see him win this fight. I still like him as a champion. I think that based solely on the performance that you got out of this fight and how he navigated this fight against Ankalaev, it was not warranting of an immediate rematch, in my opinion.
I can live with no to immediate rematch, but Alex needs to get the privilege that Izzy does, where he can come back and just get a title shot when he wants. Like, if it's not going to be immediate, he needs to get the money in the bank briefcase. That it's, if it ain't the next one, he can get the next one after that, or the next one after that, and jump the line of whoever the fuck he wants. No, that's how I think it should go.
Yeah, I feel you on that. I agree with that part of it. And also, I mean, I think that the same line of thinking now, which it's crazy to even have to say this out loud, but the same line of thinking applies here as it did for Yuri Prochazka going into the second fight with Alex. Is Alex now going to make the necessary adjustments that he needs to make against Ankalaev to make the second fight not this fight?
Yeah, I mean,
$1 million question.
I would like to believe so. That's why I think the immediate rematch is on the table. It's like, okay, give him, I mean, he's won enough. I mean, give him his shot to get his get backs. Maybe it was an off night. Sugar Sean getting a rematch, in my opinion, is pretty scandalous. And I think that makes less sense than if Alex got an immediate rematch. And I think Sean should have to go back and fight somebody after only defending it once. But Alex, bro, like, he did what he's done are unreplicable things. So he should be in that exclusionary spot.
He got the one and only moniker from Bruce Buffer
and then lost. Yeah. So
yeah. I feel, look, I have one other note about this fight that I think sums up why I feel the way that I do. And it is that when Poatan was at range, Ankalaev kicked. When he was in close, Ankalaev punched. Without anything coming back in any significant way, this is pretty much a 101, very basic type of performance for Ankalaev. You should not be able to say that about a fighter like Alex Pereira. Like, I mean, it's bizarro world to me that I'm even in this position to have to say that, but that's really what it was to me based on all of these rounds that I saw. And that's why I feel the way I do.
Well, and I think what's a good thing to note, and just like Beeb, wanting Ankh versus Yuri, is that the matchups ahead now, if Alex takes time off, if he goes to heavyweight, whatever he decides to do, the division has some very good matchups coming. I think Yuri matches up with Ankalaev very, very well. I think even Khalil Roundtree can match up with Ankalaev. Olberg, I don't think has the best shot, but I still think he can make it interesting, more interesting than Alex did, because outside of Alex having a left hook, and he is well-rounded in the skill set enough to pass, but like, then now that we're going to get past Alex's left hook, we can see the real dimension to the division that have like people who actually are great at a lot of things. They just haven't had their moment yet. And Yuri's not that fucking guy, but he is going to be the next in line, I believe. And it's just going to get more and more interesting now that Alex might have to be sidelined a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, that's really, I guess, all there is to say about this. I mean, I wish it's the main event. Of course, I want to say more, but it just doesn't seem like there's all that much to be said here. I guess to wrap it, Beeb asking Rakic versus Alex, no fucking way.
Yeah, no, he's way down. He's not. Yeah, you can't pull that one, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, definitely not. I mean, I think that, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Alex now because of this. Does he end up going up to heavyweight? There is potential for that. That could be very interesting for the heavyweight division. Of course, we know that we need heavyweights, to be countering all of the bullshit in that division. So perhaps Alex could make a convincing case up there. We'll see. Does he take some time off and come back, go for the immediate rematch? I think Dana said that he was okay with the immediate rematch idea. So, I mean, if that's what it's going to be, then I'm not angry at it necessarily, even if I don't agree with it. So we'll have to see what happens with Pereira. But as I already said, if Pereira gets the immediate rematch, something's got to change. He's got to be more willing to let his hands go. He's got to be more willing to get taken down. Now, I made an entire video on this channel about whether or not Pereira is a fake black belt. Plinio Cruz, his coach, was the one that was saying, oh, in his entire time as a champion, you don't think that we've been wrestling? You don't think that we know how to counter all this stuff? Well, I need to see it. And if
He defended 12 takedowns.
All right. I mean, yeah, fine. I'm not okay. All right. I will allow for that to be what it was, but
the fight wasn't on Alex's back. Think about that.
No, fair. You're correct about that. But what do you do when you're not in those situations is what I think I'm having the issue with. You know what I'm saying?
I think this is a modern blind spot. You know, we see, and I'm not trying to say it's Marab or the Dagestanis or whatever you want to say, but the clinch work, it's a modern loophole. Like you could just hold somebody and get some very minuscule strikes that add up, and the judging are going to take that into account because that's how the scoring system works. So if you're somebody who defends all of the takedowns, you don't end up on your back once, and you will lose the fight if you don't knock out that other person. Like, I don't know. It is interesting to note it that way because you know, nobody expected if first off, if we thought this was going to be a grappling match, or if Ankalaev was going to get his hands on Alex, it was going to be Alex on his ground or Alex on the ground and pound from Ankalaev. Nobody expected Alex to be able to stay on his feet for the entirety of this. And that's what he did. And that should show that he's progressing, or if at one point progressed enough to be able to house that fucking skill. And this is against somebody who was supposed to be fearful as a grappler in the light heavyweight division. Even if he's not actually a grappler, that's what they fucking want to sell you on. And he did end up shooting 12 fucking takedowns. So grappler or not, Alex defended 12 fucking takedowns and was able to, whether that fifth round was convincing or if it was close, like, some people will tell you this was a robbery. I don't believe it is, but we go back to the age-old time, you know.
Yeah, no, definitely not that. I also think that those takedown attempt numbers are a little bit inflated personally. I don't think that there were 12 attempts personally, but either way. No, I had this 3-2 Ankalaev. I gave him the first and the
you gave Alex 2 rounds. That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I gave him the first round. I mean, the first round was very, very slow and very there wasn't a lot going on either side. I think he had the better leg kicks in it. So, you know, that was pretty much the only deciding factor in there. And again, it's a little bit generous. But you know, for the sake of argument, basically gave him those 2 rounds. But I would have been fine with really all, maybe aside from the fifth, aside from the first, all of those rounds going to Ankalaev. I mean, either one of those could have been Ankalaev's round as well. That's what I'm saying. This is my broader point here is the nuts and bolts of the fight are what they are. The broader point is we should not be in the position to have this conversation. You know what I'm saying? Like, Pereira is like or up until this point is, at least in my mind, thought of as a generational talent who is in a different class than the type of conversation that we're having to have right now. And having to talk about this kind of stuff really it brings him back down to earth in a way that I think a lot of people were not expecting, myself included. So all of those things are what concern me now going forward for him, because it really does shine a light on some of the weaknesses that we haven't had to see before from Pereira. Mm-hmm. You know, the guy who can go out there and just knock everybody out hasn't had to deal with adversity. And I don't even really think he dealt with the adversity he was expecting in this fight. That's another part that really bothers me about this. Like, he was anticipating adversity that Ankalaev didn't have to put forward because he was fighting so cautiously. So will he come out in this next version of this fight and fight with a little bit more gusto and not be as cautious? Maybe, but I'm worried that we're going to have a repeat of this, and that would suck too.
Yeah, I'm curious. What other round did you give to Alex besides round 1?
I gave him 1 and 5.
1 and 5. Okay, yeah, I can see that. This was unfortunate to see, but like I said earlier, exciting matchups are still to be had. Let's not act like it's the end of the world. We got to witness Alex Pereira 2024, taking over from 295 all the way until, three whatever. So it was pretty fucking legendary. And I appreciate him for everything he did, because he walked in and listen, he fed his goddamn family millions with that left hook. So shout out that my guy.
Indeed. That is very true. And there's nothing to say that he can't come back and continue to give us good fights. And there's nothing to say that he's not going to be able to do great things at heavyweight or take money fights and be one of those guys that's now in that category. I mean, like, you know how it is in this sport. You can be a champ. You can be the money fighter. There's a lot of different ways to navigate when you have the star power. I don't think that this necessarily kills his star power. It's just different now.
And Notorious Viet, I had Alex round 1, and I had Ankh the rest of the 4.
Yeah.
And go ahead, Thinker. You go give yours as well.
Oh, I just said, that I had Alex winning 1 and 5 rather.
Yeah, true.
There we go. Middle 3 going to Magomed Ankalaev.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, I mean, I guess that is about it on this card. That is UFC 313, Pereira versus Ankalaev. After us talking it through, Chase, what were your impressions of this card?
No, this was a good card. I mean, even if some people in the Discord, not gonna name names, had this ruin their fucking life, and have them, crash out and have mental stability issues. This was a good card. It was fun. Fights are always good. And just the ever-changing story to mixed martial arts. Who's on top is always going to be a hot subject. So I'm just excited. And who actually knew that Ankalaev would turn fucking villain? Like, I mean,
the heel turn came very quickly for Ankalaev. You're not kidding about that. He is already disrespecting people left and right. He is going full on goblin mode, and I am here for it. Yeah, no, look, the narratives are what keep this sport interesting, and time comes for everyone. I did an entire video on this channel about the many curses that Alex Pereira was facing coming into this fight. Perhaps I should have watched my own video. You know what I'm saying? I made a lot of points about the things that he had going against him in this fight. Whether or not any of them played a factor, up to your own interpretation. But time marches on. We have a new era now, and it's going to be interesting to see what the Ankalaev reign looks like. So that's about it, really, right?
Yeah, and something else to know, I am always curious to see how active somebody's going to be as champion.
Yes.
And, not everybody comes and tells us they're going to be the most active champion ever, but it does tell a story when you have somebody who's willing to just show up and defend their belt. Like Alex is truly one of a kind in that sense. We are not going to see that from Ankalaev. He's going to have a full camp and maybe in some selective negotiations. But Alex, on that spectrum, he really was one of the gamest fucking fighters that we've seen. If this is, not trying to act like this is the end, of course, but like, listen, as of that end of the title reign right there, the one that we witnessed was fucking crazy.
Yeah, for sure. That is true. We should don't be sad that it's over. Be happy that we got to witness, right?
100%. And actually, that's a great question. Now that Alex is knocked off, who is the biggest star in the UFC, would you say?
John Jones.
Oh,
I mean,
get
I'm
rid
not
of
happy about it.
Get rid of it. Say somebody else. Say somebody else.
Other than John Jones,
I'm gonna say, and this is gonna be an oddball, I'm gonna say Shara. That's and I'm thinking popularity. Like, who's the most? I'm not thinking. I don't know.
That's the
obviously
thing, though.
Not the.
See, well, this is the issue that you get into when you have that kind of a discussion, is that, are you talking about amongst MMA fans, or are you talking about the general public? Because if it's not John Jones, then I think, even with everything being equal, probably, well, I mean, Islam Makhachev, if you're talking internationally.
That's a Elliot.
It might be somewhere in that conversation. Other than that, I would probably still say Sean O'Malley.
Marab is a pretty good. No, Sean.
Sugar
Sean. Sugar Sean's a pretty good fucking. Yeah. But who's the star? Who's the face of the UFC right now? Hamza.
Maybe Hamzat's not a bad choice, actually. I mean, I think Hamzat might have transcended a little bit. You got again, if we're talking internationally, then there's probably maybe a little bit of a case for Hamzat. DDP
That's
maybe to an
yeah.
extent.
I mean, does it have to be somebody who like? Does it have to be a champ? Like that's why I think Char like that's a good. I don't know. That's not obviously the biggest star. I mean, he's a movie star, guys. I don't know. I'm not
Oh,
gonna be
come
the one.
on.
I don't
I
know.
can't wait to see that movie. We're gonna have to see how much of a star he really is, right?
Yeah,
But
but
yeah,
that's a good question. We'll have to think on that one. Honestly, we'll see who's gonna be. Diego Lopez is not far off. He becomes champ, and he could be one of the biggest stars in the UFC right now. One of
sure.
So
Yeah, right on. Well, we will. I mean, yeah, I think we gave a couple of decent options there, but I
and
don't know.
Shoulder Lee, of course.
Oh well, obviously that. I mean, come
Yeah.
on, out there doing big things for India. All right, let's move on to the upcoming fights. If I can get the damn thing to load, for some reason it is.
Yeah, Nor, if you got here way too late, now while this loads, I'll go ahead and answer.
There you go.
Next for Islam is going to be Ilya. Marab's going to fight Pantoja. DDP is going to fight Alex. He's going to go down again. Anyway, continue.
All right. Well, quick and easy and to the point. I like it. All right, let's take a look at next week here. It is UFC Fight Night, this coming week, that is. UFC Fight Night, Vettori versus Dolidze 2, taking place at the Apex. What are we thinking? Do we care at all about this fight? I know that I don't.
Not this fight in particular. Well, actually, listen, I think I'm pretty confident on this one.
All right.
Not that I'm very hopeful to watch it, but I think Roman should handle this. What was the first outcome? Who won the first time?
That is a good question. I believe that Vettori did. Let's take a look real quick. Oh, yeah. He beat Dolidze.
Vettori won the first time. Okay,
Right.
I'm gonna go ahead and say Roman should win with how I've seen him in his last matchups. I haven't seen Vettori fight live because the dude's been gone for a year and a half. So
Yep.
ring rust is gonna be a factor. This is a 5-rounder for somebody coming off of injury and layoff, yada yada yada, and not being in a fucking title fight or anything more recently, or a fight that even matters. Like you just came off fighting Roman 2 fights ago, and he just now is this kind of bigger than he was. So I don't know. Roman should handle this. I really like Roman now. I don't know why I'm a big fan. I think I respect him for taking that fight on short notice against, I want to say it was Anthony Smith.
Anthony Smith, yeah.
He was a Chad for that. Just showed up in his best Vegas fit, and he was ready to go wherever that was. Probably wasn't Vegas, but I think I like this one, even though it's not going to be the best fight. It's probably going to be boring, but Roman should get it done.
Well, if Roman is taking this fight, then this is the easiest Roman Dolidze by decision of all time, because Marvin Vettori has a cinder block head. He cannot be knocked out. This is just a known fact. Water is wet, the sky is blue. Marvin Vettori doesn't get knocked out. So, I mean, I'm okay with that being the prediction. I think Marvin might be able to pull this off, possibly. It depends on how he's looking as far as the speed of his striking goes, because he has slowed down significantly over the years. But, I think that this is potentially his retirement fight, I want to say. I think that he was talking about possibly retiring Vettori. So, I mean, don't quote me on that one. I might be mistaken about that. But he's certainly, coming towards the end of his run. So, yeah, if you're going with Dolidze, I'd say go by decision. But yeah, I think that Vettori could pull this one off, possibly. This is one of those ones where it's like a little bit too close for comfort for me. I'd probably do a parlay with each of them on it. But bet at your own risk on that one. Again, as I said, I don't really care about this fight all that much. It doesn't move the needle in any significant way, in my opinion.
There's a lot of the fights on here that I necessarily don't care to run down too much, but there's some women fights on here that I really want to talk about, but
okay.
Yes, continue on.
Well, there's a couple that I can at least shine a little bit of insights on. This one I actually like a lot. I think that this is a really solid co-main event. Chidi and Njokuani versus Ezelu Zaleski dos Santos. Zaleski dos Santos has is he the other fighting nerd that has been the one that's been kind of sucking?
No, hell no.
No, that's not him. Okay, cool. I was going to say, I wanted to make sure I was getting that right. No, this Dos Santos is the one that's been doing some pretty decent stuff. He's I guess 1-1 in his last 2, but I think that against Chidi and Njokuani, who has nope, that's not who was I thinking of? The dude who just went up to heavyweight. I get
Kennedy.
those guys. Yes, I get those guys confused occasionally. No, Chidi, I think that Dos Santos can win this fight.
Yeah, I mean, Cheaty is the dog, so I'm gonna trust Vegas on this because I like Zaleski, and he'll probably do a nice dance at the end of it.
Yes, there you go. Good dance moves and solid fighting acumen. Chidi sometimes gets a little bit overwhelmed and can certainly be tied up in clinch situations, if I recall correctly. So, yeah, I'm going with Dos Santos on that one. Kevin Vallejos, looking forward
There
to
we
seeing
go.
this guy fight finally, in the big show. This, of course, is the dude who lost to Jean Silva on the Contender
Mhm.
Series, got himself a beautiful win in his last fight on the Contender Series, finally getting his time in the big show. And he's going up against Sungwoo Choi, who is has an abysmal record, if I am not mistaken. Yeah, look at this. I mean, 1-4 in his last 5. This should be a cakewalk for Vallejos. So, if he is, what's his line looking like? They don't have odds for him.
Not yet.
Well,
It's probably
what?
it's gonna be a heavy favorite. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even with heavy favorite status, that would be a bet the house. That's the kind of fighter that you put on the parlay just to beef it up a little bit, because
Yeah.
I think that this is going to be a slam dunk for Vallejos. So really looking forward to that fight.
Yeah. This next one though, we just had Beeb talk about Alexander Hernandez getting slept guy. Kurt Holloway is not sleeping anybody. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so Hernandez fighting Kurt Hollabaugh. This fight is one that I think is interesting for that exact reason. Hernandez, a dude who, kind of was like the great white hope for a second there, but really did not live up to that and has been kind of floundering a little bit. He's had wins, he's had losses, he's kind of been a middling sort of guy. Kurt Hollabaugh should be the type of guy, especially being a little bit older, a little, more seasoned guy at this point. Dude who's been fighting since fucking Strikeforce, for Christ's sake. I mean, let that sink in. This should be a fight that yeah, I mean, think about it. It's like this should be a fight that Hernandez should win, but he's been the guy that has not always been able to pull those off. So I think that this is actually somewhat of an even fight, as amazing as that may sound.
Yeah, I'm not probably not gonna bet on this one. These dudes are both just mid as all ever. So
Yeah. So I mean, I would tentatively go with Hernandez to win this fight, but it's a very tentative one.
I feel like I've seen Hernandez and he's been, Damon Jackson, he lost, and then he beat Austin Hubbard. Both of those performances I watched, and I watched him against Damon Jackson. I said, oh my God, you got to beat the dude with the receding hairline or with the hair transplant at the time, I think is what it was.
Did he already have it by that point?
I think he just had got it done. Anyway, he came back with it. And then, his next fight against Austin Hubbard, I'm like, oh, Austin Hubbard, tough guy. But then Hernandez actually performed. But so it seems like he's one of these guys, in my opinion, from what I've seen, he's just inconsistent. So
Yeah. Oh yeah. Inconsistent is an understatement for Hernandez for sure. Are you talking about Hollabaugh though? Yeah. I mean,
no, Hernandez.
oh,
Yep.
Hernandez. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Hollabaugh is a dude who he's a tough guy. I mean, he's one of those guys that's like been around for a long time that just is out there kind of muscling his way through fights. He's not like the greatest technical fighter on the planet, but he's a real tough dude. And
Mhm.
Hernandez is very inconsistent. So I think it's a rather even fight for that reason, and one that could go either way. I want to, like I said, it's a very tentative endorsement for Hernandez, but Hollabaugh could certainly take that one.
Nice.
This fight is one that really concerns me because, Cody Gibson, friend of the channel, friend of mine, that's the homie for real. He's going up against Damon Blackshear, who has, 15-7 is crazy to me. Like, it does not tell the story of Damon Blackshear, in my opinion. Like, this guy is much better than that record would lead one to believe. And I think that he puts up a very sizable challenge to Cody Gibson.
I think and we talked about this, you got to have a little more confidence, man. I think Cody Gibson, this is exactly the fight where he's going to make a good impression on a lot of people.
I hope so.
Damon Blackshear, I do not believe warrants this tag. Minus 450 for a guy whose biggest moment is like a twister or something, right? That's what happened.
Oh, yeah.
That ain't happening on Cody Gibson. Cody Gibson's going to be able to reverse the positions, and he's actually going to showcase, why you need the mixed martials arts. He's going to be able to switch the positions, reverse on the feet. He's going to be able to win the striking battles, whether he decides to do it or not. I've seen Cody Gibson bite down, and he's willing to take shots.
Oh yeah.
In his tough. In his second stint in tough, the finale against Bracatona, I mean, he was just willing to just lay it all out there and swing until the bell. Is Damon Blackshear ready to fight until the bell ends and there's still a strike coming? I don't know. I think Cody Gibson is just the performance that this is, in my opinion. Look, see, he's not a dude. He's got one decision that he lost to Mario Batista. This is not a dude that's going to be able to withstand what Cody Gibson is going to offer for 3 rounds. And if you look at those names there, I mean, he lost to one good person, Mario Batista. And I don't know. I mean, Cody Gibson is actually somebody. I do talk about the tough, not tough, but I do talk about the UFC rejects a lot. And I don't think Cody Gibson fits that stereotype. He is getting older. He is at a lower weight. But what he offers, I'm telling you, I think it's versatile, and I think just the right person to upset somebody with a minus 450 tag.
Yeah, no, look, as I said, I mean, I'm a huge fan of the guy, friendship aside. I think that he is one of the best wrestlers in this sport, to be perfectly honest. I really do believe that. I think that the issue for me is that Cody gasses, and that concerns me against a younger Blackshear. Like, I have not seen Damon Blackshear get into a situation where I've been like noticeably, wow, that dude is completely exhausted. I cannot say the same for Cody. I've seen that a couple of times at this point where he will continue on through it, to his credit. As you said, I mean, this is a guy that from horn to horn is always going to be pushing forward, pushing the pace, trying his absolute hardest to win. He's got a great deal of determination. That's why I always consider Cody Gibson a great role model in this sport for that exact reason. You know, you talk about determination, he's got it. It just concerns me against a guy like Blackshear, who is going to be able to keep up when it comes to the wrestling, and then might have a slightly better tank. So I'm just saying, you know, I want Cody to win. The heart is there. The mind is just saying a couple of different things. I would be ecstatic if he wins this fight.
I think this is the one that he can. He's going to make a lot more fans. I mean, people are going to be unexpected of what Cody Gibson's going to do on this one.
All right. Well, then, I mean, for plus 325, there's your money right there. If you are jiving with what Chase is saying.
Don't listen to fucking Gianni this week. I'll tell you who the real betting expert is. Cody Gibson by unanimous decision. Listen, hear me out.
Hey, bingo. I mean, that's a ringing endorsement, and one that I would be very happy to see come to fruition. So go Cody.
Hell yeah.
All right, moving on. This fight is kind of goofy. This is Su Young Yu versus AJ Cunningham. If you recall, Su Young Yu is a dude who basically walked through to a victory on the Macau card, I believe. He was fighting. It was a Termin Demirel? No, it was Gilisi. Yeah, this was not a great win for him. He kind of just he didn't really have a lot coming back at him, so he kind of made it look easy, even though it wasn't like there wasn't much to make look easy. It was just kind of a bit of a cakewalk. And he's going up against AJ Cunningham, who has a very crazy backstory. I mean, you know, all respect to the guy for overcoming a lot of crazy adversity in his life, you know, a lot of abuse situations and stuff. You know, all the respect in the world to the guy, but did not look great in the performances that he had. So this is kind of like okay versus okay. And you can see this line. I mean, a minus 800 for Su Young Yu. That is wild work. So this is just a little bit of a goofball deal here. That might be decent plus money if you're feeling frisky.
I think it's interesting to note, and Chris in the Discord mentioned it, that AJ Cunningham was coming down a weight class and that he was probably going to miss weight. He was once listed at 155. I don't know if he's coming down 2 weight classes or if that was just fights ago. I don't know. So
interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. That is a very interesting one.
So, I mean, if he is coming down that far, if he does miss weight and the fight continues to go on, perhaps there is something to be said there. Though, we've been seeing more and more. It feels like this year that meta might be evolving a little bit, where conventional wisdom would say that the guy who misses weight often will win the fight. We've seen a couple of them recently where that has not been the case.
True. I agree.
So, this is just an oddball one to me. I'd say maybe put some long shot money on Cunningham just because I was not at all impressed with you, but
Me?
I mean, yes, no, not, you're right, exactly. But again, at your own risk, because this could be another one where you just sort of is able to navigate the wrestling decently, and that's all he needs to do. Because really, like if you go back and listen, like this would be another great example of when you should go back, find what was the last time that you fought. What was that card?
I have not fought. Sorry. That's just
was
funny.
hardy har. So yeah, on the Jan versus Figueiredo card, go back and listen to the last week's fights episode that we did about this card. See our opinions about Seung Yu from that card, and it'll inform your opinion about this one. I will do the same, and I will bet according to that.
Oh yeah.
All right, moving on to your buddy Waldo Cortez Acosta here. I know you're a big fan.
Yeah, he probably wins this one. Ryan Spann got beat up by Anthony Smith, so
okay, fair enough. I mean, Ryan Spann at the end of his geez, it shouldn't be that, right? I mean, 33 years old. You'd want to think that he's not at the end of it, but he does have a lot of experience under his belt at this point, and not all of it has been to his favor. So. Waldo might just smother him, might be another one of those situations like he did with
no, he'll strike. No, he's not going to wrestle. That was a one-time thing for Rebellis, not Rebellis, but yes, for Rebellis. But Waldo himself, he's a striker at heart. He's just going to go out here and throw meaty fucking hooks. That's all this dude's going to do. Ryan Spann is a dude who'll stand with him. I think that's why they want this matchup too, is to get Waldo back in the spotlight as a striker. Like, oh, he's a heavyweight that can knock people out. The salsa boy. But I think the wrestling thing, I'm not seeing it for this one because he should know that Ryan Spann will probably sub him. He just did it to OSP last fight.
Good point. Okay. Well, then fair enough. I mean, I think that's an astute assessment there, Chase.
Yeah.
If that is the case, then, Costa taking it. I mean, the line is close. I want to believe that Ryan Spann still has a couple of victories left in him. I don't know if it's going to be this one necessarily, but I wouldn't write Ryan Spann off altogether. I'll go with it though. I'll go with it. I think you're making a good case.
I hear you.
All right, to the first of the ladies. I know that you have a lot to say about the ladies. Now, what is your opinion here, sir?
This one is so cut and dry. Stephanie Luciano, her debut on the Contender Series, she got a draw, and they signed both of them. I'm pretty sure. Maybe he just signed Stephanie, and then Alan Carr got into the UFC later. Well, they rematched it, and like I predicted, Stephanie Luciano dog walked her into a decision, made it look absolutely easy. Stephanie Luciano is one of these women who are, again, fight until the bell. She's going to showcase that she's got the skill set to be great, especially against somebody who's 9-6. This is a send-off fight. It's not somebody who's going to beat you into oblivion, but they are going to make you lose, and you're going to have a nice little retirement. So shout out Sam Hughes, but this one's it for you. Stephanie Luciano, one of the first people that were inducted onto the watch this list. I'm telling you, she is, when you see, she's it.
Okay, and so you're thinking by decision then, or
100% by decision? Yeah.
Okay. All right, so there you go. Would you say that she is your lock of the card?
Yes. Yeah.
It sounds like it anyway. That's why I said it. But
yeah.
It sounds good to me. I mean,
I had to double check some other ones, but yes, this is the lock. This and Cody Gibson.
For sure. I mean, Sam Hughes is a fighter who she's been able to pull off some victories here and there, but you see the candy cane record.
Love decisions. Look at it. She can get to the bell. Love that. Sure. That's what you got to see.
That and I mean, also it's really just also the fact that she it's so candy cane that based on what you're saying and the style of fights that Luciano is going to bring to it, right here, she's like another L is waiting right there, right at the top. So I think it makes a lot of sense. I would go with that as well.
Wait a minute, but she beat Jacqueline Amarim. Am I reading that correctly?
Did she? No, she. Yeah, I guess she did. Holy shit!
Wow.
On the Pereira versus
Wow.
Adesanya cartoon. Wow, yeah, that's surprising.
Okay. Interesting.
But lost to Piero Rodriguez and
That's gotta
Yasmin
be.
Hagari.
I feel like we would have known that. That's weird. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, I mean, again, go back and listen to the old episodes. You'll be able to hear our thoughts on it. And say it's hard. Yeah, we cover every single fight, so it's hard to keep track of every single one, of course. But
True.
but yeah, no, but I still think that the points that you make stand with this one. Like Hughes is a fighter who's like she will surprise you, but I don't think she's necessarily going to surprise you in this one.
Right.
All right, moving on. Dair Nergashe making his debut over here, Contender Series guy, going up against Brinson Ribeiro. Nergashe, I want to say, was a dude who did not impress super amazingly on the Contender Series. Like he got an okay win. I think he finished his fight, but it was like
Got a knockout on the Polish guy.
Yeah, exactly. So second round knockout. Like I want to say that fight was kind of sloppy. I'm not, if I'm recalling. I mean, we reviewed all of those fights as well, so you can go back and listen to our thoughts on that too. But
if you actually click his profile again,
sure.
On the right side, it's actually going to play his knockout right there.
So I mean, decent kick. Yeah. Not I mean, I could be mistaking him for a different Contender Series guy, perhaps, but the name, I recalled the name, but that does look like a good kick to me.
Right.
All right. Well, so maybe there is more to, maybe I'm misremembering, but Ribeiro is a dude who's been around for a while. I mean, he's 16-7, so obviously he is a dude who can get beaten. He was another victim of Zhang Minyang, so I don't know how you want to count those. A loss to Gadzhi Azulov.
This is the dude who fought Kaio Machado. Yeah, this dude's boring as fuck. Holy shit.
Yeah, golly. that was that one in Canada, right?
Yeah.
That was a really bad fight. So I mean, maybe Nergashe is a guy who can pull this one off in his debut, but always be careful of debuting fighters just in general. So he is. They don't have the odds up. Oh, no, they don't. Yeah, they don't have the odds up for this fight yet. I would think he's probably going to be the favorite. Yeah, pick him. Go for it. Why not?
Yep.
See if he can keep his O.
All right.
Yeah, this one I have more of an opinion on. Go ahead.
I mean, I don't have too much. I know the name Musasa rings from the Contender Series.
Carlos Vera versus Josias Musasa.
So I'm excited to see Musasa and see what he's going to bring. Not really too familiar with him, but minus 800. I mean, Carlos Vera, you got to be dying in this fight, right? Like, holy shit.
Well, that's why I don't like this fight very much, because Musasa was a guy that for some reason a bunch of people had a lot of positive things to say about on the Contender Series, and I did not. I was not super impressed with his fight on the Contender Series. I thought he fought with a lot of grit. But I didn't see that spark of greatness that you want to see out of a Contender Series guy. I don't like that he's going up against Carlos Vera, because Carlos Vera is a dude who was also on the redemption season of The Ultimate Fighter alongside Cody Gibson. Did not win that. Is still in the organization for some reason, and I hate to say it because I like Carlos as a person. I think he's a real nice guy. He's a dude who mixes in capoeira into his skill set. So, kind of unique in that regard. I think that he's certainly well-rounded, but he's just not very exceptional. And I think that this is certainly, I mean, the odds are minus 800, as you said. I mean, yeah, this should be a cakewalk for Musasa. I don't think it'll necessarily be entirely one-sided, but it should be a solid victory for Musasa. And I don't like it for that reason. I think that a lot of these other Contender Series guys are going up there and getting immediate killers. Vera is not that guy.
They must know. They must know he's kind of mid, like, we got to throw him against somebody who's not fucking good.
Yeah, but I mean, why is that okay? You know what I mean? Like, so anyway, I don't know. Maybe they want to curry some favor with the African crowd. He's representing the Democratic Republic of Congo, has a cool story and a good representation there. That's cool, I guess. A cool aspect of it. I'm fine with all of that part of it. I would have liked to have seen him get a little bit more of a meatier matchup to start him off, but this probably will be a pretty decent fight for him. I would take him by decision personally.
Hell yeah.
All right,
This
Daniel
one's good.
Barrett. Yeah, I
want
like
to talk
this
about
one.
this.
Yeah, this fight being so low on the card is kind of wild. Daniel Barrett versus Andre Lima. Excuse me.
The only thing that I can tell you is that for the past couple times, we even said since the Contender Series that Andre Lima doesn't appear to be what he seems. Doesn't appear to have the skill set that he's maybe alluded to having. He's not the most aggressive. He's not the most defensively sound. I mean, he gets in positions. I mean, the dude that was biting him had his back. I mean, it was only. I mean, you can't really say that was great defense. I mean, you just got lucky. Your opponent was absolutely brain dead. But Andre Lima, it's only a matter of time before he gets humbled. And I'm not saying that this is going to be the one, but there are certain people that I'm not trying to say I'm preying on their downfall, but like I have to admit that I'm not seeing what I see out of certain people. You are not Stephanie Luciano, boy. Like,
what a criticism. Yeah, no, look, you're not saying it. I'll say it. Barrett has been looking great. I mean, especially since he's come back. He looked really nice in his comeback fight. He was off for a while. I think he was dealing with some kind of a bad situation brain wise, right? Like, didn't he have some? I want to say like he had some kind of like a brain condition that he had to have removed or something along those lines. There's some unique circumstance. Whatever. He's over the hump with all of that stuff. Looked really sharp in his fight. And Lima is a dude who very much utilizes like the Muay Thai style, but it's at distance. So it's a lot of teeping, it's a lot of distance striking, and a lot of fighters that were not taking the fight to him. I mean, even though I thought that he lost his last fight, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I mean, he won his last fight, but I thought he was going to lose his last fight against Dos Santos. You're exactly right. I think that Lima is a dude who's been selling some wolf tickets over here, and I think Barrett is the dude who is going to be able to take him down. And at plus money, at good plus money, oh baby, yeah, I'm going to be putting a lot of units on Mr. Barrett over here. Shout out to Spain.
Yeah, Andre Lima, he's just a very passive fighter, in my opinion. It's when you know, and at flyweight, I just watched this Saturday what I would say is one of the premier flyweights. And what Andre Lima does not provide is the entertainment factor that a lot of these flyweights do. And the skill set that I'm seeing as all around, and that's what generally flyweights have. A lot of them are greater at things than they are certain things, but for the most part, they can do everything. And Andre Lima, I'm going to have to keep seeing you in positions where you're going to have to prove it to me. And I'm hoping this one, you're going to show me a little more than if you lose this one, I'm going to just feel really good about how I perceive the division of flyweights. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. And on the other side of it, like I said, I really have some faith in Barrett. I mean, yeah, a loss to Jafil Filio, like that, it does suck that happened to him because I think that was a pretty quick one. And Filio is one of those dudes that's like, he's really fast twitch, very snappy. So like, I think he just got caught with that. But other than that, again, against Altamirano, I thought he looked really good. And for being 4-1 in his last 5, I think that it is kind of ridiculous that he is such a sizable underdog here. I think this is a really good pick. That's where I'm leaning on this one. So I wouldn't go as far as to say it's a lock, but I think that the O's got to go at some point for Lima, and it's just a matter of time. I think the time is now.
Hell yeah.
All right, Josiah Nunez, Priscilla Cachueta. God, why is this fight happening? But it's happening. What are you thinking?
Oh, this fight is horrible. I honestly, it's hard for me to explain the stereotype that Brazilian women have. There is a stereotypical Brazilian woman who is short, stocky, and packs a punch. And this upcoming Saturday, or this last Saturday, we had Lemos and we had whatever the fuck the other one is. And this time we got Nunez and Cachoeira. Like, these are all the stereotypical Brazilian women with short haircut builds kind of deal. and we're weeding out who's going to be the best one here. And honestly, I dig that idea, but this one specifically, I did not think we had to actually go through this matchup. I figured they were just going to get cut or something. This is really bad. Really bad.
Yeah, no, I mean, the fact that Priscilla Koshweda is still in this organization is almost a slap in the face to women's bantamweight in general. Not only is she not a great fighter, she is an extremely dirty fighter. She's possibly one of the dirtiest fighters in mixed martial arts currently. If you go back and look at her previous performances and the stuff that she has done in fights, that's why when Jasmine Jasudavicius knocked the ever-loving shit out of her, I was ecstatic. But that being said, can she win this fight? I mean, it is, the line is close for a reason. Nunes is like, she has the build that you're talking about, but I don't know if she always has the output that like comes with that. So I'm hoping that she lets her hands go in a significant way. If she starts getting into ground exchanges, then it's going to be a problem, because Priscilla Koshweda, for as dirtball as she is, can still do some decent work off of her back. So keep it on the feet, and Nunes should be able to make this an interesting fight for herself, hopefully get the win. I really would like to see her win, because I would like to see Koshweda out of the conversation altogether. I don't know if it's going to happen here. I think that this fight's a little bit closer than I would like it to be. I would probably stay away from betting on this fight, for me.
No, this one's really easy in my opinion. You take Josine Nunes, because she really is. When you look at her and she comes in, dude, she's Brazilian Tyson. She's 5'2" and built like a Mack truck. And she's lost to, Cavalcante, and actually Cachoeira on the other end. She lost to some pretty good competition as well. I mean, she got subbed twice in her last, two. I'm trying to double check who it was. Jasudavicius and Miranda Maverick. Those one, and Jillian Roberts actually subbed by 3 really decent people. But I think Nunes is going to get this one. She's just, I don't know. You talk about people who got that it factor. She doesn't have it, but she has something else. I don't know, and it's fun to watch her, because if you go in there and you're like, okay, Josie, let's get a knockout, and you watch her go in there and just like do this, it's really fun. It's really
fun. And I actually thought that she won her fight against Cavalcante personally. I remember I was talking about that one. I thought that it was much closer than the scorecards would lead one to believe. I thought that it might have been, not a robbery, but a petty theft, in my opinion. So, she certainly can navigate a fight. Koshweda has been around for a little bit longer, a little bit more savvy perhaps, and we got to see how much the cheating is going to factor into the fight, which with Priscilla Koshweda, it really, we're seeing who's fighting. I want to see who's refereeing, you know what I'm saying? So
true.
That all being said, I would say that that Nunes on paper should win this fight. In reality, there's a lot more factors.
When you parlay all the women that I'm going to tell you tonight, the 3, it's going to be a really good slip. I'm telling you, and I got you guys.
The Chase parlay, it's right here. And everybody that's listening right now, if it does not come through, you shame this man on social media, and we'll tell you where you can find him at the end of the show.
Facts.
All right, moving on. Evan Elder versus Markel Medeiros. What do I know about these people?
I have no fucking clue. Minus 400 for a guy I've never even heard of is pretty crazy, though.
Medeiros sounds familiar. What did he do recently? The win over Landon Quinones. Yes, that was a good fight, actually. Okay, this guy might be about his shit, because I remember thinking Landon looked really good in his last fight, even though he didn't win. And this guy was the dude that was on the winning side of it in a unanimous decision. So I think that this Markel Medeiros might be the real deal on that one. Going up against Evan Elder, who is he also from the States? What was his last deal? Oh, a loss to Flowers. That doesn't age very well. All right. Yep. I think the choice has now been made pretty clear in my mind. Take Markel.
Easy.
There you go. And finally, I know that, again, with ladies on the card, of course, Chase has more to say. But this one was interesting to me. This is Eunice Dubin versus Carly Giudice. And the reason that it's interesting to me is because you were such a fan of Eunice Dubin after her amazing underdog knockout on the Contender Series, yet you are not going for her in this fight.
I am not going to go for her in this fight because I'm a realist. She's riding off a lot of hype from this one big moment, but there is a reason that she was touted at -8, at plus 800 in her first fight, is because one, she was never supposed to get no damn knockout. Two, she probably doesn't have the capabilities to get, any other finish or any other win other than that one random plus 1300 fucking first round knockout, whatever you want to say. Carly Judice is 3-2, which is an interesting record to be in the UFC. I will admit that.
And
But
both of them being her last two.
but if you notice, they are split decision losses, and this girl can fucking fight. If you know what I talk about Ernesta Kedetskate, this woman took her to the bell and damn near won when she was in the bro. I'm telling you, Carly Judice is one of those people when you get into the clinch, she's immediately throwing close elbows. She's trying to slice you over the top. She's throwing knees to the body. I really, really think this is a great underdog pick and a really bad time for my beautiful Eunice Dubin. I'm serious. She could be in some danger because Carly Judice, when I went back to watch this matchup with Carly and Ernesta, I went back to rewatch it because Ernesta was about to fight. I actually was almost in awe about how slighted I was, like being for Carly Judice at the time. Ernesta was my girl, and I wasn't giving the attention to the opposition. It wasn't a great fight just for Ernesta. Carly Judice has the ability to make a fucking fight, and she's not going to get beat up by some fluky Eunice Dubin. I'm sorry, girl. I love you, but the knockout, it's just not happening this time. Carly Judice is going to win by decision. And that's just what I believe is going to happen. This is a great underdog pick. You take this, you take Nunez, and you take Stephanie Luciano, and honestly, you're good for a month.
Well, you heard it here first, everybody. I'll go with it. I'd have to go back and rewatch Judice's fights. Maybe I'll do that this week. We'll see what the schedule is looking like.
Fucking good.
All right. Yeah, I mean, this is a ringing endorsement. Of course, the knockout for Dubin was gorgeous, but it was on the Contender Series. I don't think that's necessarily a great indication of what you should be expecting going forward. It's going to be interesting to see if Dubin is able to navigate into later rounds. We haven't seen that yet. So this could be her opportunity to show off a little bit in that regard. And, maybe she'll, maybe she'll show something that she wasn't able to show with having that knockout so early. So, there's potential on the other side as well. She is the favorite, but with a dog pick there, the Chase parlay is there for you. If you put money down on it, let us know in the comments. And again, shame this man mercilessly if he does not come through for you. So, we'll see what ends up happening. But all of that will be revealed this Saturday. And of course, myself and the Vitz King will be doing a watch along on this channel. That's youtube.com/@YamaShow. And Chase will be doing a watch along on his channel. And Chase, I know that you can tell them where they can find you.
youtube.com/@CP Smalls is where you can find the watch alongs where we'll be having great times. That also is going to be streamed on Twitch at twitch.tv/creative play. And then on Twitter, sometimes I'll be hanging out there at creative Parton, Partin. So yeah.
Bingo. Nailed it. I am on Twitter and Instagram at Yama Show. Hopefully going to be getting the Yama Show Facebook page back up and running very soon. So keep an eye out for that. Make sure you like on there as well when it is available, and I'll let you know when that is. Hopefully going to be having some content coming out this week. Actually, I know I'm going to be having some content coming out this week because there was a pay-per-view, so there's going to be a Yama episode. Keep an eye out for that. Maybe some other stuff as well. We'll see if we can get another live stream in sometime this week. We'll see how the schedule all works out. Either way, we'll be here for you when the fights go down. And of course, we'll be back next Monday to talk about all of it. So until then, everybody, have a great rest of your night. Have a great rest of your week. And as always, fight on.